Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. This is a conference meeting of the Council of the Township of Montclair. It's being broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live on Montclair TV 34 YouTube channel. It's available on demand and can and will be rebroadcast. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting was included in the annual conference notice schedule set forth in Resolution R-21-17, adopted by the regular meeting December 1, 2020, advertised in the official newspaper December 31st, 2020, and January 7, 2021, posted in the bulletin board outside of the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted. In addition, a copy of this notice is available to the public and is on file in the office of the Township Clerk. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, and with justice.
Great, thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councillor Cummings?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock?
Present.
Councillor Price Abrams?
Here.
Councillor Russo?
Present.
Councillor Schlager?
Here.
Councillor Yacobelis?
Present.
Mayor Spiller?
Present. Thank you. And we'll move forward with the agenda with flexibility. First, we'll do the approval of the minutes. We see the minutes for October 13th and 27th. Are there any corrections or additions? Okay, seeing none. Without objection, I so move.
Second.
Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. We've adopted the minutes. Next, we'll move to our public comment. In an effort to minimize exposure to COVID-19 and to maintain social distancing practices, this meeting of the Township Council and further meetings until the pandemic is over will only be available to the public remotely. Those who wish to participate now during public comment should dial into 408-418-9388. When asked to enter an access code, please enter 179-133-2184, then press pound. When asked to enter an attendee number, please press pound. When asked, please state your name and then press pound. The administrator will say when it's the caller's turn to speak, and the caller will then hear two beeps. At that time, the caller will have an opportunity to make their comments. With that, Mr. Stafford, Mr. Fan, I turn it over to you for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Caller with the number starting 201-280. It is your turn to comment. 201-280. Please do us the service of turning off your listening device. State your name for the record and keep your comments under 3 minutes. Caller 201-280. Next would be caller 973-688. 973-688. Please, for the record, state your name, turn off your listening device, and keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, hi. My name's Amy Rivera. I'm one of the owners of Dolly Moo on Glenridge Avenue. I just wanted to discuss two issues with you guys tonight. Should I start?
Yes, ma'am, please continue.
Okay. First I wanted to say that we're proud Montclair business owners and we love our downtown. As you all know, there is a rodent infestation that is growing by the day on Glenridge Avenue and the downtown area. It's out of control and it is becoming a major health concern. I have reported this to the Department of Health and they did send an inspector out during the day to assess the area. They didn't find any activity. However, if someone comes in the evening hours, this is when they come out and there are multiple rats. They're very large and they're very aggressive. There's rat droppings all over the sidewalks. They're burrowing in flower boxes and pots up and down the streets. One of our neighbors actually reported that a large rat jumped out of a flower pot and tried to attack her dogs. Just last week, as I was exiting my car on Glenridge Ave, my foot went into a shallow puddle on the street accidentally, and only to find out that I was stepping on a dead rat in the puddle the size of a squirrel. On garbage pickup days, there are piles of garbage scattered all over the sidewalks, which then in turn causes a feeding frenzy overnight with the rats. The next day, there will be garbage and debris all over the sidewalks. The last thing we would want is for downtown Montclair to have these images and videos landing on social media, which would have, a major negative impact on our tourism and local business. I did want to discuss one other issue, if I can continue. So I wanted to talk about the road closure on Glenridge Avenue. Last week, Glenridge Avenue was closed down with no notice given to the businesses on the street or the residents that live in the apartment buildings. Not only was notice not given, we were then told that it would be closed for 1 month. So many of us are just recovering right now from COVID-19, and to be told now that our street is being closed for 1 month with no notice is just another blow to the small business. We have a major safety concern at the top of Glenridge Avenue and Bloomfield Ave. There was no sign placed at the top of the street that says local traffic only or road closed. So we have a parking lot behind 217 Glenridge Ave that business owners and residents park in that also live in that area. Every time we turn down the street from the top of Glenridge Ave, there's people on the street screaming, going crazy that we're going down a one-way. So, for the safety of the pedestrians and the motorists, a road closed local traffic sign should really be placed at the top of Glenridge Avenue. I just feel at this point, we should have done better than this, making sure that we were all informed so we could have prepared accordingly for the closure. Hopefully after hearing all of this, a plan could be put in place to rectify all these issues and keep our downtown areas, clean, inviting, and thriving. So that was all I had to say.
Thank you. And Mr. Stafford, maybe just in a couple order of those things. First, for a rat problem, and I'm fully heard that, but if that's something that the health office department can do to take a look at that to see what there is, certainly anything that's public, baiting or whatever is appropriate. Certainly, of course, making sure the businesses are appropriately, handling garbage. We probably have to maybe require that all garbage is placed in cans. I know that's, with one of the safest ways to make sure rodents can't, rip open garbage and make more rodents is to have them all in cans. That might be something we need to look at if that's not already the rule. And also see if there's anything the health department can do to help with the rodent problem in that area that apparently is going on. So if you could look into that, that would be great. And if you have any other comment or know about that and can elaborate, that'd be great. The second thing is with the road closure, if you have any information on that. And then lastly, certainly sounds like a good idea with just better signage if there isn't something to indicate local traffic, as people move from Bloomfield Avenue onto the street. But please, anything you'd like to add or share?
Well, the only thing I'd like to add, and certainly I would defer also to Mr. Scantlebury, who has been working with registered environmental health inspectors and specialists on the issue. Those folks from our health department have been at the issue since May. They've been inspecting on scene, and they've made various findings, including the fact that while no rats or burrows were observed, although I appreciate the gentle lady's point with respect to being there during the day, many holes and cracks in the foundation of the church on Glenridge Avenue were observed, and those could allow rats access into that building. Given the condition of the property, I can tell you that the health department personnel have spoken with the church's owner, who has advised that the building is scheduled for demolition, and that they have hired an exterminator to provide maintenance and service on the property. They will continue to work with that owner until the building is demolished in every way, shape, and form possible. And that includes, if appropriate, hiring exterminators, of course, from the township perspective. With respect to the road closure, I will tell you that my analysis this afternoon, in speaking with various township personnel, is that the road was closed in advance of when it was planned because of a safety issue as determined by our police department. I'm going to be speaking with police department representatives tomorrow to ascertain further detail, but it was not a planned closure. The closure was planned for down the pike, although shortly down the pike, and the safety issue at hand caused the police department to request or really order a road closure, and the road hasn't been open since to ensure safety. So what I will say also is that notice should have been provided to the business owners on the street and the residents on the street immediately. And for some reason that wasn't done, which I will certainly be looking into immediately.
Mayor, can I say something?
Councilor, please. Councilor Schlegel.
Thank you. About a month ago, I met with Jason Gleason from the bid to go over, a few things. He mentioned to me at that time that he had many complaints from store owners, like Miss Rivera, who have rat problems. Mr. Gleason was under the impression, and I would agree with him, that this big influx of rats and rodents is due to the construction of the parking deck. With all of with everything that's been unearthed and the tumult that's going on around that project, he believes that that's how the rats are now up and running. I brought this to the attention of Mr. Karasik, the manager of the project. He said he was having a meeting with the developer and the construction crew the following week. That's about 3 weeks ago. And he said he was going to bring that up and what they could do to remedy this issue as well. So I would hope that you brought that up with them, Mr. Karasik.
I did at that time, yes.
And what did they say? Are they going to help
Well,
with
they
the
were looking at
process?
it, they did not see, I mean, I appreciate that there's a lot of construction going on there, but they've been on the lookout in a sense for any kind of infestation. I do believe they had an exterminator, but I don't want to swear that I have to ask them again. But they didn't see any emergence of rats coming out of there. Remember, this was a parking lot. There wasn't any buildings there. And they haven't gone into any sewers. However, I don't
But
want
you're
to.
building a foundation.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying I don't want to pretend to know where the rats came from. But I do know that the developer was aware of the problem and was looking for a rat situation. I believe that one of the concerns was the garbage, but garbage wasn't being put out in the back anymore. It was all being put out in the front. So the simple answer is I talked to them about it. They were aware of the problem. They were, I'm not sure what they did to address it though. So I don't want to go past that. And by the way, while I'm speaking, just one other thing, the manager didn't mention, but we have in the works this new signage to deal with the Glenridge Avenue, the Bloomfield Avenue end, exactly what the caller spoke about, businesses open signs plus, two-way traffic allowed in. We've actually contacted the county to get temporary, what's called a reversal, a temporary direction reversal officially from their engineer. So we're working on that and hopefully the signage will be there in a few days.
Councilor Slager, I want to add that the health department has been deeply involved in that area. And when they went to the site, they found no evidence of harborage or activities as far as the rats are concerned. But it also should be noted that as a practice, we being the township, don't perform extermination services for non-township assets, okay? So that if there's a concern there, that would be the responsibility of the commercial business or residents.
Well, one of the areas, I mean, and I'm glad Jason talked to you, Robin, but Jason, he reached out to me too, and it seems the issue now may be the church as a source of this rodent problem, which is not ours. It is, and I believe there is a conversation with the owner of that property because based on a report that I think was sent to us by our own health department, they did indicate that there were some holes in that structure that could be a source of rodents. So, I think at the end of the day, this is something that we may not be responsible responsible for it technically because it is there, but I think our response to this, including the parking deck issue, was not really up to par.
As Mr. Stafford said, the church is scheduled for demolition and the owner did hire Pest Quest to service the property. So they did hire an exterminator, just in case the church was a source.
All right, so with that, Mr. Stafford, Mr. Scantlebury, again, we'll ask them to continue to keep a lookout on the parking deck location, but what seems to be maybe pretty, likely or potentially a source, that abandoned church with lots of holes. If their treatment that they did from their pest services seems to help the issue, great. As we've done in the past for abandoned properties, if we need to step in and provide services and then bill it back to that property, we should look into that as well. I know we've had a lot of success in doing that for, snow removal and other things on various properties that have been somewhat abandoned. If we feel the church isn't, the owner of that property isn't stepping up and handling the issue, let's move forward in a direction that way where we address it, then bill it back to the owner there if deemed appropriate. If that works, Mr. Stafford.
Certainly.
Great, thank you.
Caller with the number 973-668. It is your turn to comment. 973-668. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments under 3 minutes. Caller 973-668. Caller 973-420. It is now your turn to comment. 973-420. Please state your name for the record. Keep your comments under 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Good evening.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor Spiller, council members. My name is Amina Toller, and I'm a 4th Ward resident. I'm calling in tonight regarding some comments I'd like to make regarding the cannabis ordinance. It's my understanding that if there's a vote tonight, if it goes through, we need to keep the 1,000-foot square footage away from schools in place. 250 feet is not far enough away from schools. 250 feet is not even a city block long. They're talking about bringing more retailers with cannabis. We have to keep the 1,000-foot square footage away from schools, drug-free, in place. It's just not acceptable for anything less. I thank you for the time.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 973-896. It is your turn to comment. 973-896. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, yes. I'm the owner of, my name is Arnav Janji. I'm the owner of Jova, located on 215 Glenridge Avenue. So I was just pretty much sharing the same sentiments with Dollymoo, my neighbor. So in regards to the rat infestation and then basically the closure of the street, I understand that, construction is going on and everything. Just mainly, I was just calling because a lot of my customers already can come, and I understand, I could redirect them to forestry and all, but it's mainly for my suppliers, who's basically stuff like groceries and all that stuff. If they could just come through and out with better signage, so at least they're informed that they can come through or not, because I don't want anybody getting a ticket or anything like that. So that's it pretty much from my side.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 646-713. It is your turn to comment. 646.
How you doing? My name is Mark Joseph, and I'm a resident of Ward 4. I think y'all know by now, I'm also a member of Montclair Beyond Policing. The last time I called in, y'all were having the SRO debate, and I know y'all passed that, but I do want to say that we have published 2 op-eds, letters together in Montclair Local, one about SRO specifically, and another about bad apples. So check those out if y'all want, because we try to use some research in those. Two quick comments before I get to the cannabis thing. One, in a recent Montclair local article, former SRO Lieutenant Williams said, let's not bring everyone else's problems to Montclair. And I just want to highlight, we talk about that a lot, about how Montclair is so exceptional, but the problems of SROs and the police still exist in Montclair, so I want to keep saying that. And also, the last time I called in, Councilor Russo said, and I don't know how long people have lived in Montclair, quote, to my comment, and I've been living in Montclair for 5 years, paying taxes here for 5 years, but even if I've been living here for 1 day or 50 years, that shouldn't matter. I should be able to have an opinion like everybody else on these topics. And saying things like, I don't know how people have lived here in Montclair, just gatekeeping. And it's really discouraging that y'all, well, not y'all, that Councilor Russo as a counselor would say something like that, because we're entitled to our opinions. I mean, for example, I'd be interested in hearing what y'all opinions are on the alleged xenophobic remarks by police officer Goad on Facebook. I know those are alleged, but Montclair local reported about it. So I just want to say a few things about that. And then regarding cannabis, I know y'all are voting on the operations for cannabis businesses and a few other things tonight, which we support. But I just want to kind of highlight that there are literally thousands of Black and brown people in jail because of selling or using cannabis. And I'm all for our town being able to make some tax dollars off of it. Sure, that's great. But I would love, I mean, we talk about Montclair being exceptional. I would love if y'all use your power as counselors, use your political power, because I know y'all have it, to really advocate that these sentences are commuted or pardoned or something, because it seems ridiculous that we could be making money potentially, as I don't know, sometime this year, right? While others languish in jail for the same exact thing, which just morally, I just can't get behind. So yeah, I'm behind it in terms of us voting for it, but morally, it just seems like what an issue that could be. And what y'all could maybe do with y'all connections. I know y'all know people. I know you can put that in people's ears. Let's commute the sentences. Let's pardon these sentences. Let's free these people who are doing the same thing that we are voting on tonight. So I know my comments were wide ranging. I appreciate y'all being able to listen, and thank you very much for your time.
Sorry, my window was open.
Caller with the number starting 973-380. It is your turn to comment. 973-380, please state your name for the record. Keep your comments under 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stephanie Thompson. I'm calling about the ordinance that you guys are going to vote on as far as the 1,000 feet rule. I understand that New Jersey has passed the legalization of marijuana, but I just think that if you guys shorten that, it's bad enough that my 12-year-old knows the smell of marijuana. And I'm thinking that the closer that those places are to home, I just think that it's going to leave room for trash, people lighting up their whatever they smoke and leaving papers and stuff all over the place. And let's try to keep some type of wholesomeness to Montclair. Like, I understand, I'm all for the tax dollars, I'm all for, you know, people making money or whatever we have to do, but I just think you guys, 250 feet is absolutely ridiculous. And it's bad enough that my son can buy a bag of potato chips and a bottle of liquor on the same block. But to have marijuana under 250 feet is absolutely ridiculous. Please be considerate. Think about what I'm telling you. We have an image to uphold, and we need to try to keep our children away from, not saying that marijuana is negative, but just away from some things as long as we can. Thank you for your time.
Next will be called with the number starting 917-545. 917-545. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hi, yeah, this is Jonathan Wagner calling. I want to offer support to the two callers, previous callers, about the placement of cannabis businesses within 250 feet of schools, I agree with both of them and third the motion that that's ludicrous and very cynical and would call for a much greater distance of 1,000 feet or more between cannabis concessions and schools. So I want to thank both of them. I'm also calling in support of the Montclair Police Department. Recently, the police in this town have been under assault by local and social media, and callers here repeatedly pressured the council to reduce and or eliminate funding for the MPD. I want to express to the council and to the callers from Montclair Beyond Policing that the MPD goes far and above and beyond its sworn duty to protect and preserve every single day and plays a vital role in the community, engaging at-risk youth and recreation programs, offering education and outreach about community issues to all comers, and generally being part of the solution in our town. Nationally, we're experiencing a plague, not only of disease, but of unchecked violence in the streets. Police put their lives on the line for our most vulnerable citizens each and every day, as evidenced by the callous execution of Ella French in Chicago on the same day that benighted city experienced 72 separate incidents of street violence, including the murder of a 15-year-old boy by street thugs. The elite in Montclair might believe that they're above such danger and have the luxury of promoting their progressive views without fear of ever being victims of criminal violence themselves, and that may be true, that they have the means to buy their own protection. But the underprivileged have no such luxury. In New York City, Eric Adams became the mayoral nominee and presumptive mayor because working class and poor families in New York City voted to reclaim their streets, while the progressive wealthy in Manhattan backs the status quo out of cynicism, arrogance, ignorance, or a combination thereof. Those who denounce the police in Montclair should examine their tender consciences and find a compassion both for those who desperately need police protection and for the officers who sacrifice every day to keep us safe. Thank you.
Caller with the number starting 201921. It is your turn to comment. 201921. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, this is Ahava, president of the Tenants Organization of Montclair. We're an advocacy group. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So good evening, Mayor and Council, the public, everyone on the call, watching, listening. It's nice to be here. I wanted to make sure that I was on the call so we can first plant the seed for the extension to the rent freeze ordinance. So we are looking at that now, and I want to make sure that everyone in the public also hears and knows that we are aware, we are paying attention, we are asking, we are having forethought and planning ahead. It is August the 10th, but we know that there is a need for the rent freeze ordinance to be extended for at least another 3 months, the 3 months that's allowable based on the explanation that's been given to us on time period, meaning the maximum 3 months each time so that we're watching how things develop. These are still trying times. So we hope that you're all looking at that, considering that, so we can get that taken care of at the end of this month, if not in September, to assure all of our tenant residents and those who are homeowners and owner supporters of the residents here who rent, including everyone who's a part of the Tenants Organization of Montclair Advocacy Group. Just to let the public know, a reminder that we do post and have posted our intro and info meetings to join us, to find out where to get your rights, making sure you have access, provide you with specific resources that are going to help you most. We post to Montclair Patch, and we also post to our Facebook page. The meetings through December are already up. So you can go on there and find out when the meetings are and how it works, whether they're in person, virtual, or both. We're offering more than one opportunity on the days of the meeting to accommodate all the various schedules. So if you're better at 12 o'clock than you are at 7, we'll have something for you closer in the time period that you can attend. We want to thank everyone who's been calling in to support the rent control ordinance over all this time, over all these months since the approved ordinance of April 7 of 2020. We are still in court, to my knowledge. So a question on that's going to come up soon for another member in leadership. So I will end it with tenants organization montclair@gmail.com. Please keep continuing to share to your neighbors, family, and friends in town to reach out to us and share any information that you have about renting. I wanted to end there, but I have to say something about the Glenridge Avenue thing. I'm actually really glad to hear, after all the comments that were made from the council, the collective comment, that you found a resolve for that, charging it back to the owners of the buildings to provide the services to remove the rats that we know do exist and that I have also seen. So I'll wrap it up. Have a good night. I wish you all well, and I look forward to that rent freeze ordinance extension, as well as our rent control ordinance. Thank you so much, Council, that you've been pushing that through. We want to see implementation on that. Happy for that update.
Next would be caller with the number starting 201-259. It is your turn to speak. 201-259, please. For the record, state your name.
Hi, my name is Joanne Spencer. I am a member of Union Baptist Church and also one of the ministers on the ministerial team. And the reason why I'm calling in has to do with the ordinances with regard to cannabis sale and businesses in Montclair. So long story short, currently I think there are maybe 3 areas that were, put out there for where these dispensaries might be placed. One of them is Valley Road between Walnut and James Street, and I think that's in one of the ordinances. I think it's Ordinance 21-18. But I think you're planning for 2, so it would be really good to know where that second one is to be placed, or ideas of where that's to be placed. And also, it seems like the dispensaries are placed in predominantly Black areas where, or I should say, frequented even trafficked by many Black patrons. So I'm saying as well that maybe that area of where these dispensaries should be opened up to the other 2 business areas in Montclair, Upper Montclair and other, not just one specific area. Also, I think it's important that we know what is the process for qualifying the dispensaries and those who receive the licenses. I know that there's something written in the ordinances, but it really would be good to have that put out so that everyone could see what those specifics are. Also, how will Black and brown people benefit from the profits made, especially when these dispensaries are placed in predominantly Black areas? Also, how many dispensaries? And I think it's supposed to be 2. But I need a confirmation on that. And then other concerns which have already come up and other questions that were placed before the council, the footage of where these places are going to be placed before schools. I would also like to include churches there as well. And it should be not less than 1,000 feet if that's what you're going to do. And then also the question came up with regard to those who have suffered the most from previous sales of marijuana, and they were incarcerated and families upended and destroyed. And now, how is the township going to address those people whose lives have been upended by previous laws that have been in place regarding the sale of marijuana? Now someone is going to be allowed to benefit from the sale, where their lives were upended by the sale. So what is the state's position related to expungement of these things that have gone on and the laws that have allowed these things to happen to many Black and brown people of color who have been caught up in the drug thing, if you will? And also, if you could tell people where would they go to be expunged? And then secondly, or thirdly, I should say in closing this, is many of the people, I looked at some of the ordinances and some of the costs for licenses and all kinds of things. And so it's a little steep for many people, but what are you doing in regards to reparations for people whose lives have been destroyed? I mean, these are people who were probably involved in, could have been some, I'm sure, involved in the sale of marijuana when it was against the law. And now that it's, you know, the law is behind it, how are these lives going to be changed by this? And will they be allowed to have any type of benefit from the sale of marijuana? And I'm not talking about, you know, I'm not talking about deep drug sales in that respect. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm talking about people whose lives have been destroyed, people who have gone to jail, and how are their lives going to be the allowing of this business and these laws to go forth? Thank you so much. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mayor.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973-239. It is your turn to comment. 973-239. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Catherine Allen Curry, and I'm also a member of Union Baptist Church. And my concern is similar to Minister Joanne's. The church is concerned about the distances that it should be at least 1,000 feet from churches and schools. And how many, I'd like to know how many. I believe there's only two cannabis businesses, and from what I understand, there are 3 or 4 locations. At one time, Midland Avenue was a location, and our council person never spoke to us about it to get our opinion. However, I understand it was taken off, which is, thank you for that. But if there are only going to be 2, why would they have all of them located in the South End area or areas where black and brown people are? If they're going to be 2, why not have one in one area in Montclair, wherever you want to put it, and then one Watchung Plaza or up near Belleville Avenue? I mean, you shouldn't discriminate against Upper Montclair and have everything down in one area. And also, with the sales taxes, how are the taxes going to be distributed back into the community? And the other thing is, again, for those people that are incarcerated for minor possessions of, how the township going to advocate for them as well? And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Mr. Stafford. Before you go to the next one, just as a point for others listening to clarification, because it seems to be some misconception or whatever it may be. The current ordinances would, as proposed, allow for the marijuana locations to be Bloomfield Avenue, not the South End, Bloomfield Avenue, and also along Valley Road, sections of Valley Road, and also Lackawanna, half of Lackawanna, one side of the street. So also not the South End, as a note. So just noting that as well. So also an area of town, especially in the 3rd Ward, as my council colleague knows, one of the most diverse locations in town is where we have our medical marijuana facility right now. And that would be an example of a location where it could be, again, Bloomfield Avenue, one side of Lackawanna, and parts of Valley Road, not the South End. Just wanted to note that because it was noted twice, I think, now in the last 2 callers. That said, Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just one further comment, and I don't have the language in front of me, but as several callers have also cited, sort of the social justice side of people who may have had previous offenses. It's my understanding that the state law one law that was passed to enable adult use of cannabis, according to how each town chooses to enact it. There were other laws at the same time passed that provided for some of the expungements and the kinds of things that people are asking about. So I do believe that is provided at the state level, and glad to sort of pull that up, share it in some fashion. It's certainly searchable, but it's not something that we would have as a municipal function because it was covered at the state level.
Right, Councilman, you're right. Senator Ron Rice was a big advocate among others who fought for that piece as well. But thanks for raising that up.
Sure thing.
Mr. Stafford.
Thank you, sir. Caller with the number starting 973-937. It is your turn to comment. 973-937, please. For the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Nine seven three 937.
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, this is Kimberly Ward Malloy. I'm calling about the dispensary in Montclair. Regardless of where you put it, whether you put it in South End, whether you put it on Valley Road, it's still around schools. I have a 15-year-old daughter that goes to the high school, and I've been a resident here for years. And I just want everyone to understand that we have to look out for our kids. We understand that it's legal now to have marijuana, but also we don't want to give our kids the okay that it's fine for them to go ahead and smoke or get the edibles or whatever they will be selling there. And we want safe environment for our kids. Instead of us putting all this unnecessary stuff here in Montclair, why don't we just try and find something for our kids to do and somewhere to go? Because when I was coming up in Montclair, we had the Y after school things to do. We had things here in Montclair for us kids to do. Now, kids don't have anything to do. They don't have anywhere to go. And it's sad how they took away the little, I guess you could say a little teenage club down there by the DLV. It's now a gym now. And these kids need something to do. It's a lot of talent with our kids, our young youth, and we need them to express their talent. We have a lot of mental health issues going on. We have a lot of kids stressing out. They want to go to school. They don't want to go to school, and we need something for them to do. We have a lot of kids in this town that have talent, and we need to focus on our youth, because as they get older, they need to see that they can do something with their talents and everything else instead of worrying about going to the liquor store, getting a card just so they can go to get weed out of the dispensary. I feel as though that you guys need to start thinking more on our youth than to building on putting dispensaries on different corners. And that's all I have to say. I thank you for taking this time.
Next would be caller with the number 646-734. It is your turn to comment. 646-734. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening. My name is Jose Barrero. I run a homeowners association on Bloomfield Avenue at the William Hughes Condo Association, and I'm a proud resident of Montclair for the last 15 years. I am excited and thrilled about the possibility of cannabis coming to the community, and for Montclair to take the reins and to lead by example. For this to become a community that is looked at for best practices and is looked at for providing opportunities for Hispanic people like myself, people of color, Black and brown people who have been most affected by cannabis prohibition and legislation previously. So rather than see it as a hindrance, I look forward to the tax revenue that can be used for schools, that can be used for kids programs, that can be used to make our community better and get rid of the rats that are around the corner from my house that I see every night. So I think cannabis is something that we need to look at in a very different light. I'm disappointed that there are only 2 retail licenses, and I would welcome the opportunity for there to be more, and that Montclair even think about cannabis lounges, and it becomes some of the first places in the state to offer something like that, so people have a safe environment to use cannabis recreationally. I think it's intellectually dishonest to not look at alcohol and to look at alcohol prohibition. That was an ineffective policy for our nation. It was an ineffective policy for our communities. It is the same. It is the same to do with cannabis. You know, cannabis is less toxic, less harmful to the body, less addictive, less likely to contribute to reckless behavior, and yet no one is worried that there's a liquor store with Everclear, White Claws, and a bottle of vodka sitting in the front with glitter. I mean, our kids are walking past that every day. So I'm a bit confused by the folks in the community, and I'm respectful of them, and I hear what they're saying. We need to have a distance that we're comfortable with, but regulation of cannabis brings safety in the fact that it can be grown greenly and sustainably, that it can be done without pesticides, that it can be done safely, that it will be regulated, that children will be kept away from it, that our community will be safe. I am excited about cannabis coming to Montclair. I'm excited at the possibility of Hispanic folks like myself and Black and brown people owning these dispensaries and benefiting from them. So I thank you for your time. For my fellow residents that don't see this, I really ask you to look at alcohol and what it's done in our community, and be honest with yourself and see if it's not about something else rather than cannabis versus alcohol. And I wish everyone a good evening.
Caller with the number starting 973-820. It is your turn to comment. 973-820. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Good evening. This is Tony Martin. I am a member of the Tenants Organization of Montclair, but I have to have a word about cannabis legalization as well. This is a message I got from Councilman Jacobellis. It included this sentence. Before I signed on to the council meeting, it said, "To me, Montclair is the progressive capital of New Jersey, and we should be leading on progressive issues, even crafting legislation before others handle it." Generally, I think he's absolutely right. I think that we in Montclair have to deal with the long history when it comes to cannabis. First, I had members of my family and close friends busted for smoking in their cars or whatever. Let's move on from that, and let's make this safe and legal. Okay, so now about being a progressive capital of New Jersey. We are in general. I agree with that. But as all of you know, one area in which Montclair has lagged behind is tenants' rights. There are more than 100 communities in New Jersey that have some type of rent control legislation. Until just about a year and a half ago, Montclair was not one of them. At that point, a truly progressive and a historic move was made by this council to create a rent leveling ordinance. It was so long coming and so much needed, but it has been held at bay since its passage by legal opposition from a small group of landlords, people who own property in Montclair and don't necessarily live here. I recount this history only for those who might be listening and unaware of it. My question for the council tonight, addressed probably properly to Town Attorney Karras, is about the status of the court case brought by the Montclair Property Owners Association and appealed by the township and currently awaiting a court date and hearing. These are my questions. Can you kindly let us know the status? Has a date for the next court hearing been set? And lastly, can you explain what the timing would be if the court winds up making a decision that throws this issue of rent control to a public referendum? Thank you so much.
Mayor, may I respond?
Mr. Karasik, please do so. Thank you.
The appellate division, as you know, the case is in front of the appellate division on our appeal of the judge's basically reversal of the clerk's decision to reject the petition. The appeal is going to be heard 9:30 on September 21st in Trenton, in person. It's not going to be remote. So that's the timing of the, now the choices are, the possibilities are the appellate division will rule that the clerk did not act arbitrarily and capriciously, and that the clerk's rejection of the petition was reasonable, at which point the rent control ordinance would go into effect. The other alternative is the appellate division would uphold the trial court, who said that the petition should be processed and go to an election, to a referendum on the ballot. And if that's the decision of the court, we're going to have a referendum. The timing of that referendum is, I can't tell you when it would be held. I was expecting that it would be held in November. I don't know if, unless the appellate division rules relatively quickly, I don't think it can make a November date, but I'd rather not speculate because there are a whole bunch of steps that have to occur before the date is set. But it would be sometime after the appellate division rules. And there's no way to tell, by the way, when they'll rule. I mean, the argument's on the 21st, they could rule that same week, which is rare, or they could rule in 6 weeks, which is pretty common. Okay, anything else, Ms. Martin? Hello? Yeah. Anyway, that's my comment.
Next would be caller with the number starting 305898. 305898. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Three zero five eight nine eight. Next would be caller number 917653. 917653. Please, for the record, state your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for receiving this call. Mayor Stein, or Township Officials, I'm the senior pastor of Union Baptist Church in Montclair, and they're very proud of the membership as we have met and the issues that we have well been articulated. My concern is more relational in regard to the cannabis ordinance. There was consideration of having the dispensary located next to our church. We didn't receive any communication from our councilperson, Lori Abrams, and we have not received, or we have not had a councilperson from the 3rd Ward visit our church since I've been there. This is my 9th year. So as we work on a number of issues related to rent and trying to secure a supermarket in Lackawanna Plaza and so many other issues. We want to strengthen our relationship. We are a historic Black Baptist Church. I believe we're the oldest Black Baptist Church in Montclair, 134 years old. So we'd like to make sure that we're part of all of these progressive conversations and that we are considered before things are put before vote. Thank you.
So, excuse me, Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm sorry, I did understand that the caller was from I didn't actually hear you that well, sir, and I did though hear that you noted that we have not yet had an opportunity to meet, that I haven't called upon you, and I do take you at that as an invitation, and I so ask that you maybe send me an email so I can actually get your name and make a time to come over and do that very kind of introduction. So L. Price Abrams at montclairnjusa.org. Thank you so much.
Lori, that was Pastor Singleton of Union Baptist Church.
Thank you. He really wasn't coming in right in the beginning.
It was bad. I just know his voice.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just note, Pastor and Mr. Scantlebury, I'm sure you will also forward along when we share out the minutes from the last interfaith meeting that I had as mayor. We'll make sure you get those minutes, and hopefully you're able to join the next one as well, where we discuss a broad range of issues and anything you'd like to talk about. So I hope you can make the next meeting on that one, and love to connect at that time or any other time. So thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Caller with the number starting 973-280. It is your turn to comment. 973-280. Please state your name for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Do us the service of muting your listening device. We can hear you, sir.
Okay, my name is Ron Weston. I'm calling this evening on behalf of the Weston family regarding the resolution that's before the council, R-21-167, to establish Judy Weston Memorial Garden at Watchung Park. Want to thank Councilwoman Schlager, the second ward, for her involvement in helping to advance this initiative, as well as our longtime postal worker, postal carrier, letter carrier, Angelo Tagalas, who have worked as well. My mother passed away last October, spent over 60 years, and the resolution says it all, a lot of it anyway, working on behalf of Montclair, tirelessly supporting the township and many people. So thank you again, and thanks to the council and the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Weston, for calling in. It's our pleasure to do this. Thank you.
Yes, very much.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973-747. 973-747. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening. This is William Scott. I'm the co-chair of the Montclair Housing Commission and also the chair of the NAACP Housing Committee. I have a couple of questions that I'd like to put on the table. But first, the cannabis conversation that we're having tonight absolutely should be further investigated. From a standpoint, over 75% of the affordable housing in the Township of Montclair is in the 4th Ward. The majority of the supportive housing is in the 4th Ward. The cannabis location in Lackawanna Plaza, not Lackawanna Plaza, but Lackawanna Street, is less than 1,000 feet from the 4th Ward, even though Mayor Spiller said it's on Bloomfield Avenue. It's in close proximity to the 4th Ward. So we really have to understand why locations have always been chosen to place a lot of the supportive services in the Township of Montclair in the 4th Ward. The 1,000-foot distance requirement should absolutely be the minimum of placing that facility in any area of the Township of Montclair. So I just wanted to be clear so people understand the history of how things end up in the 4th Ward or near the 4th Ward within stone's throw in many cases. Just because it's in the 3rd ward and it's across the street from the 4th ward does not exclude the fact that things have always been put near or in the 4th ward. Moving on to the question about the status of the Landlord-Tenant Committee. Over 2 months ago, we were informed that there would be further discussion about the position, reassignment, reappointments of members to the Landlord-Tenant Committee, and as of to date, nothing has occurred. We are in the midst of a pandemic. Landlords and tenants both should have the opportunity to discuss situations that need to be addressed, and by eliminating that committee is unacceptable in this time and era as it relates to the pandemic, tenants' rights, and landlord rights. So even though we had been informed several months ago to direct all questions in regards to this issue to Mr. Karazic, the council has appointed Mr. Karazic as the township attorney. He serves the council as representative. He is directed by the council in many cases what the situation should be, how they should be addressed. So we are still looking for the council to support the Landlord-Tenant Committee. We're not looking for any mental requirements. The council knows the ordinance that put the committee in place in 1991, and they should stand behind it. So we're looking for a response from each and every council member, not the township attorney. Thank you.
Mr. Stafford, I'll just briefly note just a couple points. First, regarding the marijuana, as I noted before, Bloomfield Avenue, which includes a large section of the 3rd ward, Valley Road again, and half of Lackawanna Plaza. I'll also note our current marijuana location is squarely in the 3rd ward. We'll note that. Secondly, with regard to the landlord tenant and general housing questions and all those pieces, certainly I commend my colleagues, and certainly proudly, I know we all support first and foremost our rent control ordinance that we got done with the last council, and this council has been fully supportive, and also the rent freeze that we've had in effect, because we know the challenging times and what people are facing. That said, also in addition, we have Councilman Cummings and Councilwoman Price Abrams, who are conducting a thorough review of all the committees that has been announced previously at one of our meetings. Was noted that those two of our colleagues have taken on the charge, and we all thank them for looking and reviewing all the committees to make sure, first and foremost, there's any legal oversteps that could cause trouble for any landlord or tenant, and also the township, of course. Additionally, making sure that the charges are clear, meaning the role of each of the committees. That work is ongoing. I know that both of them have been diligently getting the information from the clerk and looking at all the other pieces in terms of previous information that the previous clerk had and printed and shared with all boards and commissions and everything else. My understanding, I believe that both our colleagues will also be working to meet with the chairs of each of the committees. And as part of that work, to have a conversation as to expectation, roles, et cetera, and to offer support. All of that said, because we also understand and value how important it is that we work, and I think our actions have shown it, to support everyone in this town, including those facing hardship around rent this time, and those who are landlords as well. You noted it's landlord tenant, and also challenges both ways. We've, I think, struck that balance and offered that support in many different ways, and will continue to do so. I know that they're working forthwith, and I can certainly tell you there's an urgency felt by this council to make sure that we have everything in place that we can to support those efforts and to make sure that things move forward in a supportive manner. So I will let both of my colleagues, either of my colleagues, speak to that a little more, but I certainly, I think, speak on behalf of all of us when we support their work. We're thankful that they are moving quickly through that work, and as part of the next phases, and the next phase will be a conversation with chairs of each of the committees, including landlord tenant, and I'm sure, probably strike that balance, whatever is needed to ensure that support remains. Of course, our township attorney, Mr. Karasik, will continue to offer us legal advice and will continue to help guide us in those types of decisions, which certainly governs some of the conversations around landlord-tenant issues that come forward. So he will certainly continue to play a key role. But with that, we'll turn it over to Councilman Cummings and Councilwoman Price Abrams to really speak of the work that they've been doing and the urgency with which they've been doing it.
Yeah, I think, Mayor, to Mr. Scott, as well as Deirdre Malloy, who have truly been advocates for this, we as a council decided, I guess, months ago that we wanted to review, as you stated, all of our committees and commissions. And so Councilman Abrams and I have been we've been receiving all the documentation from the clerk, and the plan is to kind of really level set, but also level set in an area where we're having communications with the chairs to make sure that there is open and honest communication. So whatever we come up with is something that both parties are agreeable to. And also, I think there should be clear that we're not eliminating anything. And we're also, people who are interested should send in their applications because it's not like these things are going away. So, Mr. Scott, I know you, I know your passion, and I appreciate it. And we've had discussions about this. And so I think that, but I'm very cognizant that we are doing the same thing for all commissions and committees, so that when we do come up with something that the council is comfortable with, it will be something that all the committee chairs also have a piece and a say in it.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just add, I concur with what's been said so far, but I think we're trying to evaluate also the nature of the bodies that we're talking about. Some of them are called advisory committees. Some of them have status as commissions that they're authorized either by township ordinance or by state law. So they have different charges. We are evaluating those and making sure that we're really fulfilling on what their intent was and revisiting that. So I do expect that Councilman Cummings and I will have more to share with you in the weeks and perhaps a couple months ahead.
Thank you both. Mr. Stafford.
Yes, sir. Next would be caller number, starting with the number 551-208. 551-208, please. For the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
My name is Najib Faraj. I'm calling to ask, I know I've been listening to the comments that they have already selected several areas for the cannabis retail store. Well, my first question is, have they already selected certain people of applicants, and are they allowing corporate to come into the town to benefit from the sales of cannabis? Because we do have a lot of locals, including myself, which is interested in opening one. And I know there's only two. Hopefully they can give us more than two for others to have the opportunity to provide this service. I did listen to a lot of my neighbors talking about the church and the school and how they'll benefit from those who already being incarcerated for the cannabis use and sales. I think someone locally, not corporate, opening in the community will be beneficial to our community, that understands our community, that been around in the community, work with a lot of the locals, especially our churches and schools. So my question to the mayor, since I've heard they have these three areas that they have pre-selected for the cannabis retail, are they still taking applications, and or are they already choosing who will be allowed to sell in there, and if there's any corporate among those applicants?
Thank you. And I'll just say, appreciate your call. And probably it's a good example of when we're hearing some callers saying we wish we had more, and some callers saying wish we had less. That's the balance we tried to find here. So I'll note that to start, our goal has always been to start out small and potentially expand. I think even hearing from one of the callers talk about opportunities in Upper Montclair, I think that's a great idea. We can look at that and see how this progresses. But certainly, specific to your question, there's really a number of phases that have to occur. And what I mean by that is each township, as we are doing with our actions, determines which licenses they are permitting and how many. That's the two that you're hearing about and talking about tonight. Specifically setting locations, that's the locations you're hearing about tonight. The application process itself, however, is one where any entity who looks to have a cannabis retail location has to go through the state of New Jersey. When they go to the state of New Jersey will have a number of metrics that they assess before they determine if they're going to approve that individual or entity to be one of the retailers. If they pass through that hurdle and certainly look to then be in Montclair, then the individual will also have to pass through our regulations around it, the ones that we're looking at here tonight. And certainly I know that our attorney, through the work of the subcommittee and now this council that has moved this forward, has also included, a scorecard or rubric, if you will, of how we're looking at who would be approved for that process, which also takes into account, it's been noted by a few of the callers, but takes into account women and minority-owned businesses and so forth to make sure that there's an equitable opportunity for individuals to partake in the process. So again, it's really like a twofold process. There's a state approval that has to occur, and then there's a local township approval that would occur. We're setting the rules around the local township piece, but any entity that wants to partake in either of these two licenses that we would be granting if it moves forward here would have to go to the state, would have to be approved by the state, and then meet our requirements as well. So hope that answers your question. Thank you. Mr. Stafford.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 973-380. It is your turn to comment. 973-380, please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and do us the service of muting your listening device. Nine seven three 380. Caller with the number starting 973-477. 973-477, please. State your name for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, folks. Good evening. My name is Harris Cohen. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. I just wanted to bring up a few points regarding the ordinances in relation to cannabis tonight, and I'm already thankful for the time here and pleased to have gotten the opportunity to learn a lot about this in my past. One of the things of 3 points I'm going to make here is what I've already kind of been witnessing in town, and that's who is currently owning the license, which is Ascend Wellness. Ascend Wellness is an Illinois-based company, and what a lot of people in the town have been discussing tonight and neighbors have been saying is that we're afraid of corporations and other state actors coming in here. Now, what we're seeing in a lot of states that are passing cannabis right now is that it is multi-state actors that are coming into the fold, and what I'm at least afraid here is that we're going to see those same companies like Ascend, who is right now selling products from Select or Cura, which are multi-state companies themselves. I'm not seeing New Jersey brands. I'm not seeing Montclair necessarily going to be getting this early chance. If there are two retailer licenses and one of them is already being given to an Illinois-based company, I'm a little skeptical of what the local ability to get these licenses is going to be. So we kind of have to think about it in relation to maybe a Budweiser situation. Are we going to get these major players acting as our commercial beer, or are we going to get some of our favorite New Jersey craft in here? Now, another point, and this has really been echoed a lot tonight, is what's going to be the case with social equity. In California, they've tried to run social equity in the entirety of Los Angeles County, and what ended up happening in that process was that no one benefited from it. It ended up being a somewhat corrupt process, devoid of any actual action. And we need to be very careful if we are considering these bigger state actors that we need to be mindful of making sure and ensuring the ability for any group, any demographic to be an operator or license owner. That is paramount to most other issues, I think, right now. Now, the third thing, my final point, is that we are kind of, I guess, lacking in the information and education surrounding this entire piece. In Oregon, for example, bud tenders are trained by the state, and they have to have an actual state licensure in order to be retailers, in order to actually be retail salespeople. We were seeing recently in the Montclair local there being misinformation spread about cannabis. And if we keep kind of continuing on this path, of course, more people are going to be afraid of it. More people are going to be nervous about it around their children. But if we actually create educational piece, collateral surrounding it, which I think the town should be responsible for, the education piece is going to be very important just to get across to the town as a whole. So I think these are some things that the council needs to take into account when going forward, especially over the next few years. And I'm just very excited for the work that you guys have done, and I'm looking forward to its passage. Thank you for your time.
Next would be caller with the number starting 917374. It is your turn to comment. 917374, please. For the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, my name is Sharina Navani. I'm a Montclair resident, and I'm really fascinated about this whole cannabis issue. A lot of my questions have already been answered. The only missing piece is what you had mentioned before about, and I wasn't sure if it was you or another council member that mentioned, you have to first go through the state, get qualified through the state, and then get qualified through the city of Montclair. If you have any contact information for someone who's interested in pursuing that, and particularly opening up a lounge, which somebody had mentioned before in Uptown, if you could share that some way, either in the notes or if Councilman Uvalos could send out a follow-up and saying, hey, if anyone's interested in applying through the state of New Jersey, this is where we recommend you go to, or this is the individual we recommend you reach out to. A lot of times when you go on the state website, it's very difficult to figure out. So I'm just going to put that out there for if anyone could share that contact information, that would be great. Second of all, as a Montclair resident and someone who moved here specifically for the school system, specifically for diversity, I'm noticing the schools are rapidly declining when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to teacher turnover, when it comes to principal turnover, superintendent turnover. It's just been one thing after the other, and there's no consistency for our children. Now, yes, we've gone through a massive plague for the last almost 2 years, but now that we're starting to get, back to normal, can we figure out what we're doing with our infrastructures and our buildings? And can we figure out if the high school will ever get repaired? Can we figure out if we'll still have the same superintendent next year? I mean, there's a lot of influx, and I need to know who can give us that direction as parents, especially when we pay thousands and thousands and thousands in taxes. And for me to have to live with the fact that they're not getting the superior education they should be getting bothers me as a parent. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, that's it.
Next would be caller with the number starting 201388. 201388, please. For the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and do us the service of muting your listening device.
My name is Wendy Fox Warfield. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I own Parlor Hair Studio on Glenridge Avenue. We will be celebrating our 18-year anniversary next month. And basically wanted to talk about the parking. Sorry to leave the whole conversation about the cannabis. I was asked by Jason from the bid to speak with other business owners about the situation. One thing is that, again, we were not notified about the street closure that apparently is going to be happening for about a month. My apologies because I did come in late to this. I got off work at 7 tonight, so if any of this was addressed earlier, I'm sorry. But what my complaint is and my question is probably more to about the parking is we have clients that have nowhere to park. They're late. We are not always able to accommodate late people. We work on a schedule. And, I had a client today that came in. She had nowhere to park. She had to park too far away for us to feed her meter. And she was not able to add more time on her Park Mobile app. And it's just,
really been a struggle. I mean, this has been going on for years, but right now it's really bad, you know, with the parking lot closed and the street parking on our street, you know, not happening. We have nowhere for our customers, you know, and this goes for the whole neighborhood, to park. So I'm just wondering if there's any way that maybe they could waive the meters, or we could have some kind of vouchers or something, you know, so if, you know, a client gets a ticket, I don't know, something. I just feel like something needs to be done. It's really been crazy, and I'm just so tired right now, so I'm sorry if I'm not speaking as well as I probably would be earlier this evening. But anyway, I'm just hoping something can be done. Thank you.
Well, certainly thank you for calling, and we all understand that. You probably, in the event you did jump on a little later, Mr. Stafford was able to address some of the pieces that were, you know, noted in that, you know, including there was some emergent situation. And again, he's talking with the police tomorrow to get the full details as to why that closure did occur without the notice that absolutely should be provided at all times. And I know he's looking into that, and will, I'm sure, Mr. Stafford, of course, communicate that to the bid once you have any kind of information on that. That said, the secondary part, when you talk about parking, certainly a challenge throughout Montclair. I will certainly note that unfortunately, you know, it's a little bit difficult here with that lot closing. But just, you know, as a note that lot is closed because we are building a whole new parking deck to provide hundreds of new spaces. And I think really a testament to the work that we've been able to do here. We've got that deck being paid for primarily by a developer through the Seymour Street project. So again, not a real, you know, the burden on taxpayers to get that while adding hundreds and hundreds of spaces to help alleviate some of that parking problem. So as you noted, it's been going on for years. We're working to help alleviate that. We're seeing 2 new decks coming online right here, the one that's going to be right next to the Wellmont and the one that is right next to your location. You know, we're all hopeful, and that deck is going up very quickly. Happy to see. But we are all looking forward to that opportunity in that moment when residents and visitors alike can very quickly and easily jump right into that deck and park and shop and really patronize all our local businesses in the area and with an easier time parking. So that's the goal. That's what we're working on. Certainly, it's a challenge and inconvenience. You know, we certainly never like to hear that. We are pressing to make sure they do the job as quickly as possible. They are, and again, at a deal that you know, again, you know, gets us a really valuable town asset without costing us all as taxpayers. So working on that, and the first part, again, I'm sure Mr. Stafford will convey it to bid. You know, he's working on that piece and that information getting out and finding out exactly why that was closed without due notification. Appreciate that. Mr. Stafford.
Next would be caller with the number starting 646-763. It is your turn to comment. 646-763. Please, for the record, state your name. Do us the service of muting your listening device and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is John Sullivan from 19 Euclid Place. Calling on behalf as president of Bike Walk Montclair, looking for some clarification around the current status of the Montclair Safe Plan, which was adopted into the master plan a year ago in hopes that when streets were repaved, it would not be automatically implemented, of course, but at least considered, and its menu of options considered for design options on streets. So I'm wondering, and our constituents have been reaching out saying, well, I'm seeing lots of streets being repaved. I'm looking for specific guidance tonight from the council on what the actual process is, if it's actually being consulted, what is the decision making on why streets are being restriped and with no difference from before, because this is a big opportunity to do things differently, as street repaving doesn't come off very often at all. So I'm wondering, one, what the rationale is for not doing things with the plan that's now part of our master plan, and two, is there an actual process in place? Who are the people who are navigating this issue that we can talk to and advocate to, or actually be part of the conversation, perhaps, as to what the decision-making process is when a street comes up for repaving? Who makes that decision to either go with what the plan says or not regard it at all, or perhaps look at it and say, we're not going to do that now, and what is the criteria for that decision? I hope the council could speak to that tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. And certainly one of the key people who would speak to some of that is our township planner, who, as you might imagine, is not on with us here. I'll certainly turn it over to Mr. Stafford and Mr. Scantlebury. But I will note first, with just a slight exception, when you note that the street paving doesn't occur that frequently, certainly a testament to this council and previous councils. We've been working to make sure that that does occur somewhat frequently. I think we're evidenced by the number of streets that are paved in town. So we'll just note that, because we are working very hard on the infrastructure work here in town, paving more streets in the last 9 years or so than I think has been done at any similar time period ever. So I'm really excited about that. Specific to your painting, I know that a lot of the roads, and you may experience this as well, that are paved in town, vast majority don't really have much striping at all that goes along with it. Most, and again, the police guidance, and again, I'll let Mr. Stafford speak to it, they're left without lineage striping, so it allows for cars to move around other vehicles and actually helps with street calming and some other pieces. So many of them you will not see like a shoulder line painted or something along those lines. However, Ms. Talley is always looking at locations to see where bike lanes or pedestrian-friendly additions or reconfigurations can occur. In fact, it was a conversation at some of our recent council meetings about some opportunities around grants to make some of that happen, which we did not move forward with at that project at the time. But Mr. Stafford, you could speak a little more to the process, to the caller's question.
You're right, Mayor. It would come from the planner, working in conjunction with our Department of Community Services, and then recommendations would be forwarded to the appropriate committee for consideration in its entirety. You're absolutely right. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-460. 973-460. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and do us the service of muting your listening device. 973-460. Next would be caller with the number starting 305-898. 305-898. It is your turn to comment. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and do us the service of muting your listening device.
Hello, can you hear me? This is Deanna Taylor Haycock.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm the owner of Good Bottle Refill Shop on Glen Ridge Avenue. We just opened in April of this year, and I just want to comment about the construction and the parking. Again, just like the woman from Parlor Salon, I missed a little bit in the beginning, and it sounds like you guys talked about this, but I just want to state for the record, I'm very pleased that the parking garage is going up. I understand that there are issues that roads have to be closed. I totally get it. However, the lack of communication about the roads being closed is very upsetting to a new business such as mine. I'm very lucky that my customers have been very loyal, but it has been hard to get them to the store on days when that road is completely shut down. Knowing that the road is going to be shut down would be excellent for me to communicate it to my customers so that they maybe aren't driving a far distance and then not being able to park or actually get to the store. Since we're so new, they're not exactly sure where it is anyway also, so that can certainly pose a problem. So I just wanted, like I said, I just wanted to state for the record that there was a couple days that it was closed, and it was very surprising. As you can imagine, a store like mine, Earth Day would be like my Black Friday, and the street was completely closed that day. So it sounds like you guys are getting to the bottom of it, and I hope, just like I said, just for the record, that I can be on some sort of communication on this as well. Thanks.
You bet. And as we noted, and thank you for that, Mr. Stafford, will, as soon as he gets to exactly what happened there, share that out with the bid so it can be shared out widely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973-281. It is your turn to comment. 973-281. Please state your name for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, my name is Fonnie Seggins. I'm a third ward resident, lifelong Montclair resident. I was just wondering if it's been discussed yet. I tuned in late. I apologize. I'm looking to see if the 1,000 feet drug mandate is still going to be in place. I know that there was talk about it being reduced to 250 feet, being that marijuana is no longer an illegal substance.
Yes, ma'am. Other folks have called to talk about that, but the governing body has, while they've responded, the governing body members have responded. Those items are not up until later in the agenda.
Okay, I know. I apologize. I tuned in late. Just as a resident in the third ward, frequenting the fourth ward with family there, I hope that they keep it at the 1,000 feet. I know there will be some commercial spaces looking to be occupied. I don't think the children should have to be able to buy liquor and drugs and everything else within walking distance. I know that downtown is heavily dense already. I know foot traffic is important for businesses, but I think we need to start looking at what types of businesses and so forth. So I hope that that's something that's going to be looked at. That's all.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 862-202. 862-202. Please, for the record, state your name. Do us the service of muting your listening device and keep your comments to 3 minutes. 862-202. That caller hung up. Next would be caller with the number starting 609-680. 609-680. Please state your name for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hugh Giordano, 57 Argyle, Blackwood, New Jersey. Council, Mayor, I'm here today as a representative of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, UFCW. The UFCW is a national labor union of 1.3 million hardworking families, and we are the official cannabis labor union that represents cannabis workers from seed to sale, both medical and adult use, under the guise of the AFL-CIO. We're also working in conjunction with our union brothers and sisters in the New Jersey building trades, such as IBEW, carpenters, and other trades as far as the retrofit and the build out. But the UFCW is a bona fide cannabis labor union under the state law. And we are the official cannabis labor union with the AFL-CIO from seed to sale. And we currently represent operators and workers in New Jersey as well. And we wanted to say thank you for promoting good jobs in Montclair and in that equity as well. It's good to see that environmental, local ownership, minority ownership, and labor standards are part of your application process. Montclair is a leader in equity when it comes to that. I think it'll give an opportunity for local ownership, but also create good jobs. I want to put in the record that we unionized Ascend Wellness in Illinois. We hope to be partners with them in Montclair and to fulfill the state law as a bona fide labor union. I would like to suggest to the council that they make sure that organizations that come in and say they're going to create good jobs and work with the labor union actually work with a bona fide labor union and not a shell labor union or what we call a company labor union. It's important that S-21 be referenced in that matter, and we hope that Montclair will make sure that the workers are protected, because if the workers are not protected and don't have a real voice on the job, then that won't protect patients, it won't protect consumers, and it won't protect the overall residents. The UFCW is proud to represent other regulated markets. So we are the official labor union that represents Bacardi, Jim Beam. We also represent pharmacy techs and healthcare workers. So we understand the rules and regulations that go into this industry, and it's important that any major organization in Montclair, whether and they're applying for an application, work with a bona fide labor union so the workers are protected and have real union benefits and wages. And we want to make it clear to the business community and to the council as well that these workers are well trained. They are intelligent people. They, just like any other regulated industry, they take what they do as a craft. They take it seriously. And the security standards of these facilities are bar none. So, you know, we have to remember that we wouldn't look down on just because it's 250 feet, 500 feet, or 1,000 feet. The bottom line is that cannabis will not be coming out those doors from our union represented facilities. Because just like our alcohol workers that deliver to your local bars, and just like our pharmacy techs, they follow the rules and regs because they get good wages and benefits. So we support this ordinance. So on behalf of the UFCW and on behalf of the AFL-CIO and the New Jersey Building Trades, we look forward to Montclair being a place of good union jobs. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor? Can I ask Mr. Giordano a question?
Please, Scott.
Yeah. Mr. Giordano, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. I'm an AFL-CIO member all my life, AFT union, teachers. Are you a member? Is your is your UFCW part of the Essex County, Essex West Hudson Labor Council with Tom Giblin?
The UFCW is part of many various councils within New Jersey, also the Southern region and Central region, and we work very closely with the state state AFL-CIO in Trenton as well.
Okay, I just ask you to keep in touch with me because I have tremendous empathy for what you're saying. We want to see union employees in these places if we can, and make sure that the operations are done by union favorable companies. You say you're already represented in the Western Ascend facility. So just keep in touch with me at the town hall. If you call 973-567, call me personally, 973-567-9397. Use my personal number. Anybody can do that. Anybody's welcome to call me anytime. But I want to talk to you some more about this, Mr. Giordano. Thanks for calling in.
No problem at all, and thank you for supporting workers' rights and making that part of your mindset. It's good to see. Again, Montclair is showing real leadership tonight, and I want you to know that affiliated unions with the AFL-CIO see that, and we support that type of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be caller with the number starting 201-983. 201-983, please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and do us the service of muting your listening device.
Natalie Lee, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, obviously my name is Natalie Lee. I am the owner of Plum Bakery at 179 Glenridge Ave. I know that this issue has been discussed already. I've been on hold since 7 o'clock. And I know that the parking issue has, been addressed already. But, my biggest concern as a bakery is that I'm not something where someone needs to find parking for an hour or two. I need somebody I have customers who need parking for just a few minutes. And a lot of them are walking out with a lot of purchases, a lot of bags. So they need to be close to their car. There was road closures, just constantly road closures. We went through the building of the building that's on the southeast corner of Glenridge Ave. The road was closed numerous times for that without notice. And frankly, I don't even know what the notice will do. There's only so much I can put out to my customers. If they can't get to me, they don't come to me. if they have to carry a sheet cake and 3 other bags out to their car and they're, on Claremont Avenue, guess what? They're not coming. They just leave. So, the whole notice thing doesn't really do me any good. I would like to know what is going to be done to allow people to actually come to the store. I had a customer who was handicapped who said that she was coming to pick up an order and she needed to get to the store front and they would not let her through. It was a police officer. I don't know if they just didn't care or what. I totally support the Montclair Police Department, but she could not come pick up her order. Due to COVID and, just the lack of business, we do not have multiple salespeople in the store. So it is very difficult for us to, if we can't do curbside pickup in front of our store, which is now impossible. You can't get to us, so we can't do curbside pickup. We can't walk to Willow to give them the order. And now we have a ginormous sign on Forest Street that says road closed. Now, as a resident of Montclair, as a business owner of Montclair, I know that I can drive in through those cones and get to the end of the street. But as somebody who's not a resident of Montclair, somebody who's not aware of these things, they see a road closed sign, they don't go. So today, my husband and I went to, we had some stuff to do at the bakery. The closest parking spot I got was 4 houses from Claremont. Now, I'm there every single day. I see how many of the contractors and construction workers that are working on that garage are parked the whole time, since this construction started. They took up all the spots on Glen Ridge Ave, the metered spots, not paying for the spots. I complained about that. At least if you're going to park in the spots, pay for them. Nobody did anything about it. They took away metered spots and gave them to the contractors. I understand the parking garage is going to be beautiful. It's going to be great. But let me tell you something. We made it through COVID very, very difficultly. We went into our own pockets, put money out of our private money to keep that business afloat and to keep people employed in this town, that live in this town. We are trying to make it work. This is not going to last. If this is closed for an entire month with no signage, no way of my customers to know that they still can somehow get to me, we're not going to last. My husband then visited the project manager of the garage, and his answer, oh, you didn't get the email? No, of course we didn't get the email. We already know that. So we went to Mr. Stafford. My husband went to go see him today to talk about how about putting some signage. How about something? The local businesses are still open. You can still travel down this street. Come here, come there. Designate parking for, frankly, the 2 businesses that are still operating on that strip, the Good Bottle and myself at Plum Bakery. Designate something for those customers to be able to still get us and get to us and keep us in business. The answer from Mr. Stafford was not really that clear. We'll have to go to the town engineer. We'll have to go to the county engineer to put signage up to keep businesses, local small businesses open. I mean, that's going to take weeks. By then, the road will be open again. We need something now, not something that's going to be discussed at the next meeting or this level or that level. We need something that allows us to stay in business. 5 blocks away is not good. That's not going to happen. The blatant disregard for the small businesses and the business owners of Glen Ridge Ave is just ridiculous.
Ms. Lee, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the noise that you heard a few moments ago was your time expiring. So please do us the service of concluding your comments.
Yeah, okay. So for Mr. Stafford, you're the town manager. Please manage the town. Thank you for listening.
Next will be caller with the number starting 516305. It is your turn to comment. 516-305. Please state your name for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and turn off your listening device. 516-305. Next would be caller with the number starting 954-529. It is your turn to comment. 954.
Next would be caller with the number starting 954-529. It is your turn to comment.
Please do us the service of muting your listening device, state your name for the record, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jason Gleason. I'm the Executive Director of Montclair Center Business Improvement District. I'd like to start this evening by thanking members of council and the administration, especially Mr. Stafford, for your incredible efforts in helping to partner to bring the Jazz Festival downtown this year. It's certainly a Herculean effort, no doubt, and it wouldn't be possible without your monetary contribution and considerable time and efforts behind the scenes to put all these pieces together and bring this amazing cultural attraction to Bloomfield Avenue. And I think that's one area that demonstrates that there can be a strong partnership and a collaborative spirit existing between us, and the magic that can take place when we work together. That being said, the reason I'm calling tonight is an effort to embrace and continue just that. As you know, as the director of the bid, I represent 300 plus small businesses downtown Montclair, and I've had to clear my schedule the last 2 days. I've been talking to and consoling roughly the 20 small businesses who reside on Glenridge Avenue, adjacent to the Midtown parking deck construction site where the township shut down the street with zero notice to businesses. No car traffic, no deliveries, no visibility, no parking, no warning. These are businesses that have survived COVID, possibly the hardest business year ever. And as I spoke to the businesses, I was disheartened to find some of them near tears, some of them thinking about packing up shop, and some of them already starting to. Jerry's Antiques, Romney Liquors, Montclair Bookstore, Dolly Moo, Parlor. Some of these businesses have been around for 10, 20, 40 years. Jalwa, the fabulous new Indian restaurant, and Good Bottle Refill Shop. They just opened. And how are they supposed to survive if they can't communicate to their customer base? Does the township administration care at all about the business community? Polls consistently show that within the top 3 reasons people move to the township is the robust commercial districts within our great township. And I believe that should be reason enough for the township to treat all of the business districts with, at the very least, respect. This is now the second time that the communication ball has been dropped on our business community with respect to this township construction project, and it's cost those businesses greatly. And according to the construction manager for the project, this was always part of the approved plan to shut down Glenridge Avenue. This could have been communicated. Bids exist not just for jazz fests and murals and ribbon cuttings. And one of the main functions of a bid or a SID within a town or a city is to be an interface between a township and a business community. And I'm here to help you with the plan. We're here to help you communicate. We're here to help you create wins. And we really want to, but we can't if we don't know what's going on. So we implore you to consider opening up a better line of communication with us so we can work together more effectively and navigate these incredibly frustrating and inefficient pitfalls before they arise. So thank you all very much for your time and your consideration on this matter.
There are no other callers in the queue, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stafford. Appreciate that, Mr. Fan, for helping to manage that. And certainly, to Mr. Gleason, appreciate the call at the end there. And certainly, Mr. Stafford, I know you did address that earlier in terms of while maybe previously planned, it was not planned to occur at this time. But again, we certainly are asking that as you track down exactly what happened there, you absolutely convey that to Mr. Gleason in the bid and go from there, making sure that as much communication as possible can occur, does occur. So we thank you for those efforts in advance. Okay, moving forward from public comment. Next, we have pending ordinances for second reading. For each of these items as the second ordinance, we're going to have a public hearing, of course. So the first is Ordinance O-21-17, which is an ordinance to provide for the regulation of cannabis business in the Township of Montclair. And I'm going to open the public hearing without objection. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, Mr. Stafford, is there anyone in the queue who wishes to be heard in relation to this proposed ordinance?
There does not appear to be, Mayor. Let me just refresh. The answer is no, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Without objection, I'm going to close the hearing. It is closed. Okay, so for Ordinance 0-21-17, as I read before, for discussion on our end, I so move it for second reading here. I so move.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any council comments, questions, concerns? Councilman Yakupels.
Thanks, Mayor. So, I want to respond to, I prepared some things to say, but some of this also is to respond to some of the callers from tonight. Look, I think first, you acknowledged this earlier, right? This is complicated. This is lawmaking. This is the push and pull of not just the seven of us and how we feel, but also how many different constituencies feel. But the one thing that's been clear to me the whole time is just the overwhelming support for the legalization of recreational cannabis in the state of New Jersey, and disproportionately so in Montclair. And I think that's what we have to remember here. This is no longer an illegal substance, right? It's no longer a controlled substance. We should be celebrating that we're no longer going to be incarcerating people for possession of 6 ounces or less of marijuana. We're not talking about, the reason that it's not a 1,000-foot buffer is because we no longer have to deal with, it's no longer subject to drug-free school zone because it's no longer an illegal or controlled substance. And I want us to be careful about the stigma. I hear so much stigmatizing of this. What are we saying? What are we saying with a buffer? What are we saying when we say it shouldn't be near schools? We're saying that something bad is going on. We're talking about adults pursuing a legal transaction in a legal place of business in a very heavily regulated and controlled environment. And this is about taking those kinds of transactions almost literally out of the shadows and putting them into the daylight, into sunlight. We talk about it being cash transactions, like that's shady. It's also debit cards, by the way. I visited a few facilities in Colorado last year and in Massachusetts actually last week. And I have to tell you, you walk in, they check your ID, they scan your ID into the system. You have for the most part, beautiful setups, really professional environments. At no point are you ever touching or handling any kind of product. After you have a conversation with an educated associate, or look at an assortment on their website or whatever it is, you scan a QR code, that person has a conversation with you about what you're looking for, and then they go back and get whatever that product is that you decide, and they bring it to you, it goes into a bag, and you leave the store. And I have to say, the one thing that I thought was really interesting about some of the places I visited is that there was no traditional marijuana in those places. There were no pipes, there were no bongs, there were chocolate bars, and there was seltzer, and there were creams that you rub on, on your, if you injure yourself. And there were gummies, and there were all sorts of, just things that you don't traditionally associate with marijuana. So, I just want us to be mindful of, what has changed in this industry, what we're really talking about here. I really think gone are the days of, water bongs and basements and alleyways. Like we're talking about, consuming a muffin or a can of seltzer, or using a cream or a gel, or eating a gummy or a piece of chocolate. And there's a lot of education that has to happen, right? And I acknowledge that. And I think in this law, we are being careful. We are dipping our toe in the water in terms of how expansive, in terms of the areas we're permitting it, and the number of licenses. A lot of reason to do with the education that has to happen. People need to know the difference between sativa and indica. They need to know what 5 milligrams of THC actually means and what it'll do for you, and how long it takes to actually affect you. You need to have rigorous education around the law for this, right? No operating vehicles, being really mindful of the impact that it has on you as any substance that is similar would. And I respect and I appreciate that. We also have to respect, I'm a big believer in the free market in this regard, and enabling, this industry to evolve as it will. And so for everyone who called and said, we're only having it in certain areas and they're low income areas. First of all, that's not true. I don't associate Bloomfield Avenue almost end to end throughout town as a low income area only. And we also have it on Valley Road, and we also have it license types permitted on Walnut Street in that area. So some of that is just false and not true at all, and just I think reinforces a stigma that I don't think is healthy or fair. But I do believe we should open this up. I do think it's fair to say that these should be in Upper Montclair. We absolutely should have retail establishments in Upper Montclair and the South End. They should be everywhere in Montclair that where we have business districts. The last thing I'll say, and I think this is an important one, you mentioned this earlier, Mayor, the state has to approve any license whatsoever. And on top of that, we have to approve any license whatsoever. So it's not like someone's going into town hall, filling out a piece of paper, and they're going to get a license to be able to open up a place. There is such rigorous requirements to open something that the state sets, that we set locally, hopefully tonight. But this is not easy. We're not making it easy for anybody. And we have a lot of control over this. And I think we have the right balance in terms of what we're pursuing tonight. And I hope that we will vote to enact these. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman.
First of all, I think to Councilman's point about it, the locations, I think the planning board sent us a documentation that basically said these locations are in areas where majority of low-income families lived. And I've shared with councilors, privately my position on that as well with the locations that we picked. And I think that one of the things that I'm particularly perturbed about is my request for the council to get an opt-out ordinance a few weeks ago so that it could be shared with everyone. One that was not shared with everyone by the town attorney until I had to go through the clerk so that everyone could see it. And although it's too late to vote on that because clearly it's in the new stages, I just think this whole process has been flawed. And I say that because I think a lot of people called in today that had issues with it. And the way we moved this particular ordinance was one in which it wasn't really a lot of conversations amongst the entire council. And I know in Public Safety Committee, the police chief and the deputy chief both said, they basically can't do anything because their hands are tied. They have no state law, state regulations, or anything that they can do. And to the point about the schools, I'm a father of 3 kids. And I understand that I do not want any marijuana stores or any stores near a school or a church for that matter, as a Christian and a member of St. Paul Baptist Church. So I think I take somewhat, I have kids. And no one can tell me marijuana has not been perceived as a gateway drug. And although it is legal, and I understand the potential financial benefits with it, I do think we need to take a step back sometimes and think that, we need to consider what are all the ramifications and unintended consequences. We had some people call in and talk about liquor stores. Well, we have problems with underage drinking. We're gonna have problems with underage marijuana smoking. What are we really saying here that, it's only on Bloomfield Avenue and a small stretch of Valley Road, not Watchung Plaza, not Walnut Street, not Bellevue Avenue, not Valley Road all the way. And the locations on the location on Valley Road, there's a very small strip and the hollow is right there. So, let's really understand that, this is in low income areas and compared to Montclair. And that's not me just saying that, that is our own planning board, which shared that information with us. So I want to meet, so I think that comment is flat out wrong. And that is one in which, again, I think this council is moving on something that we don't have to move so quickly on. I don't think we need to compare or worry about what Bloomfield is doing or other cities are doing. I think we need to make sure that we put together something that is truly reflective of fair and balanced legislation that really impacts the entire town. I am not against marijuana the legalization and the sales of it in Montclair. I'm against the process in which, to me, does not represent a fair and equitable distribution throughout town, and also does not take into consideration, to me, churches and schools are sacred. And to say that, it's okay to put these stores near them is just unconscionable to me. I know we have, I look at where the South End. I look at Bloomfield Avenue. We got 3 churches on Bloomfield Avenue in the South End. But 250 feet, as one of the callers said, that's nothing. 1,000 feet, does that work? Maybe. It's better. And again, when I asked the attorney about the 250 feet, his response to me was it's totally arbitrary. I was like, how could you do something so arbitrary about that when we're talking about a real problem, not problematic, but something that is going to impact the town for a while. And again, we are coming into this without knowing what the state is going to say. And then to the state's point, to me, what the state did was basically say, we're going to give it to municipalities, because then if anything happens negatively, well, we're the ones who own what we put in place. So, I've been very consistent with my concerns about this from the beginning. Nothing that has happened since has changed my mind. I just wanted to make sure that everyone on here had an opportunity to at least read the opt-out ordinance that was put in place, or that was written up a long time ago, and have that way that, as we go down the road and we increase or whatever we do, I will have my conscience will be free that at least I tried to sway this group to understand what we're putting together right now, I think could have been much better. We've already changed it once. We're looking at, we've heard people come in and talk about it. And I think we really need to take into consideration that this ordinance, as currently written, is not fair and equitable.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Okay. Up, Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Mayor, yeah, thanks. I would just add to the comments that have been offered so far. Again, to the extent that the committee that helped to draft this and that we all then had some opportunity for feedback on, those of you who are in that conversation can correct me, but I know you were trying to say, let's start small. We have a medicinal dispensary already located on Bloomfield Avenue. So you expanded the potential for 2 retail licenses that would be in limited other parts of town. And with my amendment, and I know, again, we looked at Midland, and then I understood the feedback from members of this body, some of which were repeated on tonight's callers, but we already took care of it last time because I reflected on what I heard, which was that perhaps that wasn't an ideal location given considerations around that particular church. Nonetheless, the idea was we're starting small. No matter how many places we might have said it could be authorized, we were only talking about 2 retail licenses. So there will only be in 2 spaces. It's going to be limited by that decision, should this be passed in a little while here. So I just don't think we are precluded if we want to expand this in the future, and I'm not sure that's what some of my colleagues are saying, but if we want to expand it that more areas of town when we do authorize, or even if before we authorize who may open a retail shop and where it will be, we will have an opportunity to expand it if finding that kind of balance is of importance to the whole body. But in the meantime, the idea was start in a modest way. We're putting 2 retail cannabis outlets within, again, I thought it would be more fair to have a few other options for those who would seek to find a retail space. So I looked for places that were not far from the places that had been outlined. And I just wanted to offer that as the rationale for how it is that I arrived at what I offered and then what I scaled back to and where we landed now. So I do encourage us to endorse what we have here, learn and grow if we choose to from there. And I appreciate the robust contributions from members of the community as well.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Deputy Mayor Hurlock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank everyone who called in this evening. There were a lot of questions raised about these issues, quite frankly, some that I hadn't even considered. So thank you for the discussion. I do appreciate it. I stated my position before. I don't want to take up too much more time on this. I have serious concerns about the way this has been implemented at the state level, not even at the municipality level. We don't even have the state regs yet, okay? So it is what it is. That's just a fact. There's still no limit for toxicology, for impairment purposes, as there are for alcohol when one is driving. I'm not convinced that the 2% is going to be a revenue generator. We have to hire people to go in and look at the books at these companies to make sure that we're getting the 2%. There's a lot of additional costs here. So for those reasons, I'm still opposed to this, but I do appreciate the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
Mayor?
Councilman Russo?
Yeah. I've been here a long time. Sometimes that causes problems. Try to compare how many years I've been here to others who, one caller said that I was trying to restrict someone because they've been here 5 years. If you were here just one day, you certainly have a right to speak up. When we started out with the medical marijuana facility, it was very local merchant. He was a operator of the Cafe Eclectic. He only operated the coffee house, which I went to all the time. So for 10 years, I went to Julio Valentin's coffee house just for coffee and cake with my wife. Then Julio closed there and opened the Greenleaf Compassion Center, where the Ascend is now. And Ascend bought that, so anybody's questioning, whether it was local, it was a local business person who was very committed to Montclair, who started the medical marijuana facility. And then it was purchased just recently by the Ascend Corporation, who I'm going to hold their feet to the fire on union representation, as Mr. Giordano called in. But I saw how this operated. I had some skepticism and concerns then, but I also realized that the medical marijuana use would be helpful to my own mom, who, as you know, died last year at 101 with arthritis, terrible arthritis. She never got to really use it, but lots of people made themselves better medically through that facility. For 10 years it existed. The police chief used to tell me, we have no calls, no problems. There's no problems with this place. It's not an issue in Montclair. So we had a good operator at that location, and they're hopefully, going to continue to operate that way positively. So my experience has been very positive with medical cannabis. And I had questions a couple of weeks ago because I had not checked with our neighboring communities, and I had to do some research there with Bloomfield and others, and I found out from my council colleagues in Bloomfield they were moving full speed ahead to allow maybe 6 possible locations in Bloomfield. Well, you can imagine the economic impact of Bloomfield being the center of everybody going to purchase legal cannabis. We're the first that have had medical, and it worked out well. Montclair is a progressive community, but we're also cautious, and we're also mindful of our history and mindful of our residents. I had a question a couple of weeks ago because I thought we ought to add or change some things, which Councilor Price Abrams was trying to promote some changes, and then I made a friendly amendment to take out Midland Avenue, which is where Union Baptist is. I personally would like to see us have 500 feet distance at least from any schools or churches. So I have some concerns, and maybe we can make changes as we go along. But overall, we've got to take advantage of this opportunity to get started because Bloomfield's already done it. It's going to be coming to our area. It's important that we take the first step and then we make some changes and improvements. And I certainly do not support limiting it to areas that are lower income. So I'm not sure how we're going to get around that one, but all parts of Montclair should be available for anyone to request or ask for a license. However, I don't want to see us go really beyond 2. So I have a limit to what I want to see us do. and it's got to be strictly regulated, very, very careful. The state has got to put out those regs, which is really, I've said that it's the cart before the horse in a way, but I've been convinced by discussions over the last month that we should move ahead with this. So I'm going to support it tonight, even though I have some reservations and concerns, and I want to have us make changes as we go along in the weeks and months ahead. And I appreciate everybody's calls, texts, emails. I've gotten so many messages about this, pro and con. But my experience with medical marijuana was very good here in Montclair, and that's what basically is the foundation of my my support for this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, concerns, comments? All right, seeing none, I will also just note, certainly appreciate the discussion from all my colleagues, important points made and important perspectives by all for sure. Certainly, as everyone noted during public comment, I made the point to emphasize, the locations that we selected in terms of Bloomfield Avenue, sections of Valley Road, and of course that half of the street of Lackawanna, again, are some key corridors in town, major thoroughfares and locations. The goal always, as it came out of subcommittee and then as presented to this council, was to find locations that were, first starting out small and expanding from there. I will continue to note, as I said before, and having lived right next to Bloomfield Avenue for years and years, it is a very diverse section of town. It is certainly an area that has some affluence and also a mix, as everywhere throughout the town does in some way, but certainly a very diverse part of town for sure. And also want to note that we've seen the medical marijuana facility in the 3rd Ward on Bloomfield Avenue there without incident for years, and really providing a service to residents, not just in this town but in the state. As was noted, New Jersey voters overwhelmingly, voted to move forward in terms of decriminalization, in terms of allowing access here, and certainly, as many of us know, providing a way that a product that people would have to get and were getting in a way that oftentimes could be dangerous or could be less controlled and could lead to problems, now is much more regulated and provides an opportunity for people to do so in a very safe and controlled manner. So certainly, I think as we start out very conservatively in this, in terms of where we're starting and where we're proposing, I think I heard from some of my colleagues when we talk about equity and allowing it to be in other parts of town. I know that this was a balance to get something started, and we want to see how it does. But if I'm correct, and I think I'm hearing people saying that they'd like to see this in other areas of town, like in Upper Montclair or South End, I am absolutely amenable to that. I think we probably would very quickly have the votes to get that done. So if that's what I think I'm hearing, we can revisit this. You can always expand the law. You can't retract it. So again, that's why we wanted to start small, but we certainly can expand. And if that's the issue in equity, we can certainly move there forthwith. So that said, I know that the planning board did make some comments. I think we've addressed, numerous times in terms of the, lower income. I just think that's flatly false, number one. Secondly, any of the other comments in terms of zoning and where it can be applied. Mr. Karasik, I'd have you just for the record state, the law around cannabis locations as it relates to zoning and how those two things intersect. If you could speak to that, that'd be appreciated, so we answer that question officially.
Mayor, just I would like to do that when the actual zoning ordinance comes up, which is the next one.
Okay.
This first one is on the permitting process and the
Okay.
application process. Okay.
Okay,
And then-
we'll do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll save that question for there. All right, with that, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Counselor Cummings,
No.
Deputy Mayor Herlock,
No.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Thank you very much. Next is Ordinance O-21-18, which is an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance, Chapter 374, to provide for the regulation and location of the cannabis business. Without objection, I'm going to open for public hearing. Is there objection? Seeing none, we're open for public hearing. Mr. Stafford.
Thank you, Mayor. Caller with the number starting 551208. It is your turn to comment. 551208. Please state your name for the record, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yeah, hi, this is Najib Farash. I already commented. Thank you. I was just listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Next would be caller with the number starting 609680. 609680. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, this is Hugh Giordano of the UFCW. I've already commented. Thank you.
Very well. Next would be caller with the number starting 973747. 973747. Please state your name for the record and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, this is William Scott again. Yes, I did comment earlier, but it appears that there was some additional information that was available to the planning board and passed on to the council as far as the locations being in low-income areas. And I don't remember hearing any of that publicized to the public to let them know that that was the case. And it only reinforces my comment that I said earlier about over 70% of the affordable housing is in the fourth ward. The majority of the senior citizen housing is in the fourth ward. The majority of the supportive housing is in the fourth ward. And if we're looking to say, well, you know, we're just going to try it and see how it works out, and then you're trying it in the fourth ward and neighboring areas, even though it's Lackawanna is in the third ward, as I mentioned, it's only less than 1,000 feet away from the fourth ward. And Mr. Yacobelis, you can stop shaking your head. You know, I support the introduction and the sale of marijuana in the Township of Montclair, but I also expect fairness and balance in this township. I've been a resident of this township for 71 years. You're a newcomer. You don't know the history of what's been going on here. So let's be very frank as to what's going on here. If it's going to be fair and equitable, you don't put it in a ward that has supported and maintained the majority of the affordable housing, supportive housing, senior citizen facilities. They're always selected and put in the fourth ward. That's the history, Mr. Yacobelis. So let's understand what's going on here. Thank you.
I'd like to respond to that.
Councilor, let's just to close it out, let's just hear if there's another public commenter, and then absolutely I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Stafford just alerted me that there are no other public comment callers, but he, of course, as is always technology, just crashed out. That's why we're seeing a little X on his screen. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there objection to closing the hearing? Hearing no objection, the public hearing is closed. Councilman Yacobelis, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm shaking my head around specifically the misinformation that's out there in terms of these primarily being located in the fourth ward. It's just not true. It is not true. One only needs to look at a map and look at the zoning map and see that it extends all along Bloomfield Avenue, the majority of which is in the third ward. We also include Valley Road in the second ward, and a portion of the fourth ward strictly and only along Bloomfield Avenue in the C1. So I just want to make sure again, and this has been corrected a few times tonight, that there's no misinformation out there. We're not talking about the South End. We're not talking about piloting or testing something in the fourth ward, which, by the way, is my home. I live in the fourth ward, and I will not be told or lectured on how to represent my area and my town. I understand and respect there's history, and I will always respect history and those that have lived here longer than I have. But as a caller said earlier, you know, I live here and I have a vote and I have a say. And frankly, as somebody elected by the highest number of people ever in this town for any office, I will will hold my head high and say what I feel and what I believe, and will stand for fact. And the fact is, this is not something that's being tested in the 4th Ward. This is not something that's disproportionately placed in the 4th Ward. It's actually, if anything, disproportionately placed in the 3rd Ward, because that is where the majority of our central business district is, and that's just a fact. Thank you.
I think, Mr. Yacobelis, that what Mr. Scott is referring to is there is a history in this town of things being overly done in the 4th Ward. And on appearance, while this ordinance does not inherently impact the 4th Ward because it's on Bloomfield Avenue, in the section that the majority of is above the 3rd Ward, you know, no one has talked about the Hollow, which is right off of Valley Road. And as much as you look at low-income areas in this township, as I've said before, that is an area of township that is of lower income means. And so I don't think it's a question of, again, support, but it's how were these locations identified and why? And was any consideration given to the residential makeup of those communities? I hear the mayor, and yes, the areas on Bloomfield Avenue have changed where you do have wealthy people living there. And you haven't living there basically because the Midtown Directive made them a great place to live. But Mr. Scott's point is that he's someone who's been here since he was born, which is before any of us was born. Well, not you, Bob, but Peter, myself for sure. And I think when you talk to him personally, you'll hear that passion, but he's just trying to give you an understanding of his history of dealing with multiple councils in this township and his feelings. So I respect that from him. And I think, you know, he's not telling you how to do your job or what to do. I think he's trying to just make sure that you understand that where his place comes from is one of history in this township that goes a lot further than pretty much everyone on this council except for Bob Reeser.
Right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Any other? Hold on a second. Let me just finish the council ones, and then Ira will have you read, an answer there. So, any other council comments or questions, concerns? Councilwoman Price Abrams, and I'll use this opportunity while you're about to go, Councilwoman. Deputy Manager Scantlebury, Mr. Finn, make sure you're making him a co-host. I know that Mr. Stafford's having technical difficulties, so Mr. Scantlebury, just to prepare yourself for as we have the other ordinances that come forward for a hearing, you are managing that and taking a look at the callers and appropriately, linking them in if there are callers for the other ones, just so you know, to give you, so you're working on that. Councilwoman, please.
Thank you. This is really a point of it's a detail I want to make sure we get right, that the ordinance we have before us, there was a corrected version that was sent through. Inadvertently, a different version had been sent, I know in our packets, I don't know if it was sent on the public stream or not, but in any case, that I want to make sure we're voting on the exact match to the last one that we voted on so that we don't in any way, fail to make our second vote. So I don't know, Mr. Karasik, how do you confirm that we have the right draft in front of us?
Yes, actually, the important thing is that we have the draft that was published and made public after the first meeting, so that the public had the right draft when they were considering this. And the answer is yes, the draft before you is the draft according to that was published. The clerk and I confirmed this, and the only thing that was in error is that the package had contained an old version of it. So you have the right draft in front of you, which includes the change that you made at the last meeting.
Thank you. But even more important than even that the change is made, but that we're consistent, that the vote will actually be valid in terms of it being a match to the last vote, that it's 100%. So I have no further comments, but I thank everybody. Thank you.
That's with Midland Avenue being removed, right? Midland Avenue is removed, right?
Didn't make it, yep.
Oh, wait, that is correct. Well, yes. Council President Abrams had proposed 2 locations. One was removed. And at the meeting, and this version that you have in front of you was the result, which has which does not have the location we're concerned about.
Right. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Karasik, if you can please, as I noted before, for the record, but if you could use it, just say it at this time, that'd be appreciated.
Right. Well, as you know, the ordinance in front of you is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, chapter 347, and by law, we have to refer amendments to the zoning ordinance have to refer to the planning board, and the planning board has the option to send a report. Planning board did send a report via the planning director. They received this ordinance after the council meeting and filed a report on it. And the report had several points in it. What the law says, Mr. Mayor, is that the governing body, when considering the adoption of a development regulation, which is what this is, shall review the report of the planning board and may disapprove or change any recommendation by a vote of the majority of its full authorized membership, and shall record in the minutes the reasons for not following such recommendation. In other words, you don't have to agree with the planning board, you just have to say why you didn't. The planning boards, you did receive, all the council people received the planning board's report, and I think they also received a memo from me commenting on the planning board's report as well. I think what the council should bear in mind is the cannabis ordinance gives you broad powers and discretion as to where to allow cannabis retailers, manufacturers, et cetera, to be located in the township. So the planning board's comments on the choice of locations, well, they actually didn't have any backup. I don't know if anyone wants me to comment on what they said, but essentially they're talking about the fact that the ordinance only allows cannabis in parts of zones and not in the entire zoning district, for instance, not in the entire commercial district. That's an issue that we should address, and the response that the council should have, or the response I recommend is that the cannabis ordinance gives you the broad power to, in fact, overlay the district with smaller areas for which cannabis can be allowed. You don't have to automatically do the whole commercial district. So with respect to their other comments, I mean, I don't know if anyone wants to respond to them, or would you like me to respond to them? I mean, they did recommend that cannabis facilities should have appropriate on-site parking, and I'm sure that will be taken care of in the site plan process to make sure the cannabis business is not exempt from any of the other zoning requirements for a similar business in the district in which they're in. So that was just a comment. The planning board was concerned about traffic safety and security, all of which safety and security are covered by the state law. In fact, they're very, very detailed and stringent rules regarding the security of these facilities, plus the safety, and also to address a comment from one of the members of the public, the people who work in these facilities are also very strictly regulated. The other issue, the planning board did say that they felt that the locations were inequitable, I think was their word, but they provided Councilor Cummings or to Mr. Scott's point, they didn't provide any information at all to back up that statement. They just made that statement in their report. So it was a single line. I'm not saying that makes it less concerned, but I just mean that it's not something that you have evidence that you can that you'd have to refute at this level. So basically, I think the council can say it's that the broad discretion is given within the law and the considerations that it's taken in determining the locations and the other zoning considerations cause it to disagree with the planning board. Sorry if I was a little long-winded, but I did want to make sure I covered it once.
No, especially the zoning one. Know that wanted you to cover the law on that one. Appreciate it. And I think we have actually spoken to a couple disagreements on those other points as well, but you think you reiterated them there.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Karasik didn't mention that the board also recommended that the buffer zones be increased as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is correct. What they said was in their report that the school buffer zone should be increased from 250 to 500 feet and should include child care centers, which are that's what the report said. And at least my understanding of you can speak to the process, but as I understood that these considerations were all part of the process the council went through in the committees and in its deliberations to come out with the final result. But again, I don't have to speak for you on that.
That is correct. I believe it was already noted, in terms of the viewing of cannabis, again, a legal and not controlled substance at this time. That's where the distances came from, and thereby why the majority that moved forward on this disagrees. Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Yeah, I would want to just add one point about the distances, and I don't know what the exact right number is. I have no particular problem with the number we've got. But these establishments ought to be seen as analogous to liquor stores. And school children understand there are certain things that adults have legal access to and they do not. And children don't tend to get alcohol if they do acquire alcohol underage at a liquor store. And they will not get cannabis if they get it from a cannabis retailer that we permit in this town. As noted, the security there will be far exceeding even what that is of a liquor store. And
21 years old too.
Pardon me?
You have to be 21 to go into one of these stores.
Well, that's my point. They'll not be getting these substances, whether it's liquor from a liquor store or cannabis from a cannabis retailer. That they may get it in other ways as children do, and we should guard against that. We should have programs, we should educate, all the things that are said. But what is permitted for adult use is distinct from what is appropriate for children in this and other regards. And so I'm just suggesting that the public might consider seeing this as analogous to how we have regulated and seen citing of liquor stores. That is, I think, consistent policy.
So, Mr. Karasik, what's the distance for liquor stores from the schools?
I'm not aware of any regulations that regulates the distance between liquor stores and schools.
I mean, Grove Street, Grove Pharmacy, and the liquor store right there is opposite the school across the street. I could think of other examples probably.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Karasik, thanks for staying there for the record. Seeing none, I've so moved Ordinance 0-21-18.
Second.
It's moved and seconded, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
No.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
No.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes, and I hope we can make some changes and adjustments in the future as we go along.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovellis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Thank you. Next is Ordinance O-21-19, which is ordinance to provide for municipal sales and use taxes on certain cannabis-related transaction in the Township of Montclair. Without objection, I'm going to open this ordinance for public hearing. Is there objection? Seeing no objection, Mr. Stafford, I'm not sure if you're all back up fully or is Mr. Scantlebury watching this one?
No, I'm here, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you and see you. Just making
All right,
sure.
so I'm temporarily displaced, but I think I can get done what I need to. There is one caller appearing to be in the queue. Caller with the number starting 973-937. It is your turn to comment. 973-937. Please, for the record, state your name and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Yes, it's Kimberly Malloy again. I meant to mention that I feel as though that I need to know for my area of the 4th Ward, what are they going to do when they put this, wherever they put the dispensary? Is it going to help the people that's losing their apartments? Where's the money going to go? Where's the revenue? What is the revenue going to do for the town, for the people that's losing their homes, for that's losing their apartments? Is it going to bring down taxes? What is it going to do? Like, you keep saying that you want to put it in there, put it here, another one here in Montclair, but what are they going to do? And also, you should consider, if you do put it on Valley Road, I would suggest that you could put it, say, at the Chase Bank, because there's parking there, and no one will be in the way. Or in the back where Charlie Brown's used to be. So we need to think like out of sight, out of mind, where it's no lines anywhere. You go on Bloomfield Avenue, it's crowded. You see a whole long line on Bloomfield Avenue where people can't even get into the stores, and they can't get into the restaurants that they want to sit at, or they can't sit outside because you got to look at this long line of people going to this dispensary. We need to do something. And please, 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 our kids are number one. Think of our kids. What can we get for our kids? I cannot stress that enough. We need something for these kids to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stafford, anyone else?
Next would be caller with the number starting 973-634. It is your turn to comment. 973-634. Please state your name for the record and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, hi, my name is Steve, and I actually been listening a lot about the cannabis. I'd rather not talk about that. One person spoke about a couple things and then finished the call about the physical state of the schools in Montclair and that they are quote unquote falling apart. I don't know if I characterize it that way, but I do know that the facilities in Montclair are nothing like many of the surrounding towns in terms of the quality of the facilities. They do need a lot of work, and there's been questions asked that have not been answered. One man called and asked about the mayor, to the mayor for an answer, and he didn't get one. I believe Mr. Russo spoke for him, and his question was about the conflict of interest, or apparent conflict of interest, depending on your opinion, between the fact that he is about to become the president of the State Teachers Union, and he's also appointing the Board of Ed. I think that there's a signal that's really bad right now. He's going to be making probably, looks like in excess of $1 million a year as the head of the Teachers Union. And at the same time, he's appointing the Board of Ed, and the schools are in disrepair. And I would like for him to comment about whether or not he feels there's a conflict of interest, and for Mr. Russo to please refrain. Thank you.
I do appreciate that my salary goes up every time a caller calls, but besides that point, this is the hearing on the ordinance in front of us. Mr. Stafford and Mr. Karasik, I'm sure you guys can monitor that to make sure, as you know, this hearing specifically is not public comment. This is specific to this ordinance legally, so let's make sure that we have comments on this ordinance as we move forward as appropriate. Are there any other callers, Mr. Stafford, with regard to questions on this ordinance?
There may be, Mayor. It's tough to tell given the fact that I'm only privy to the first 6 digits of the phone numbers. Caller with the numbers starting 973-747. It is your turn to comment. 973-747. Please state your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. This is William Scott. In regards to the revenue that would be coming into the township from the sale of cannabis, and I think Ms. Malloy stated that some of these funds should be utilized for tax reduction. Some of the funds should absolutely be going to support affordable housing in this township. Other states, matter of fact, I believe it was Illinois, that had the first law that supported the tax revenue be utilized to support affordable housing. So hopefully Montclair can be as progressive, to use Mr. Yacobelis' words, in regards to utilizing some of the revenue that would be coming from the sale of cannabis for affordable housing and also tax reduction for the residents. Is that possible?
I think Mr. Karasik would probably have to speak to that.
Are there any other callers?
I'm sorry,
No, sir, that was the last caller.
Okay.
Did somebody ask me to speak to? I don't know, Mayor. I just missed the question.
Well, first, without objection, I'm going to close the hearing. Is there objection? Okay, the hearing is closed. First, just to note, with regard to the dollars, the first caller, and Mr. Scott also noted some of the dollars, any revenue from this or anything else goes into our general fund. Those dollars, therefore, by extension, quote unquote, help to reduce taxes, if you will. Obviously, there's an expenditures that the council has to make to support our ongoing work, whether that be infrastructure, or whether that be operational, et cetera. Those dollars are offset by whatever income comes in. Certainly, this would be income. So in that sense, it would reduce taxes, certainly, and also fund program costs, whatever those may be. So again, goes into a general fund, and without explicit description in the law, which this does not allow for, it is not earmarked for anything specifically. It is general funds. Is that correct, Mr. Krasik?
That is correct. This is just go into the kitty, basically.
Okay, thank you very much. Any council comments, questions on this one? All right, seeing none, I still move Ordinance O-21-19.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Counselor Cummings,
No.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
No.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes, and I'd like to see the funds dedicated to education.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Next is Ordinance O-21-20, which is an ordinance amending the Montclair Code, Chapter 297, Street Sidewalks, Article 5(8). What am I here? Article 8, Additional Regulations Related to Street and Sidewalks, Section 59, Honorary Street Dedications. And I so move.
Second?
Easy for me to say there. Any members of the public, who wishes to be heard in relation to this pending ordinance? Mr. Stafford.
There are no persons in the queue, Mayor.
Okay, without objection, I'm going to close the hearing. Is there objection? Hearing is closed. Council comments or questions?
Mayor, this is for Aquilonia Way.
Well, I saw the deputy mayor with his hand up, and he can speak to that, and then we'll come back to you, Councilman. So let's go to deputy mayor, and then we'll go back to Councilman Russo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this, to answer Councilman Russo's question, this is for Aquilonia Way, which is that stretch on Pine Street, which is near Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church, and the San Vito Society Club facility is there as well. And it is an honor and a privilege to recognize the Italian heritage here in Montclair and in New Jersey and in the United States by doing something like this, and I'm very excited for it, and I wholeheartedly support it, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me speak to it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor and Councilman Russo. I believe that hits your question, but did you have any other questions or comments?
Well, I just wanted to say I'm very happy that when the folks were asking me about this, I was putting it forward very, very soon, and Councilman Hurlock always supports this, I know, and Councilman Iacobellis has Italian heritage, and so does Councilwoman Schleger, and everybody's Italian at some point, especially when it comes to food. But I wanted to just say, it's a positive thing. There's so much negativism about various groups. And I hate to see the attacks upon our Asian American community lately. And sometimes Italian Americans get this same type of attacks. And I have a very obvious Italian name, but there's a lot of folks on our council and in our government who have Italian American background. But the Aquilonia Way issue is something my mother was very, very interested in because she was 101 when she died last year, always had a love for Mount Carmel Church and the St. Sebastian feast, which we named a street at the corner there of Pine Street. I think it was on Grant and Sherman. Now we've got two corners that we have named St. Sebastian Way and now Aquilonia Way. So I just want to thank everybody for recognizing the positives in the Italian American history, which my family has a tremendous background with. My uncle, my mother's younger brother, was a priest at St. Lucy's Church in Newark, and that's a very connected church with the Mount Carmel Church in Montclair. So thank you all for that positive support for Aquilonia Way. Thank you, Mayor.
You bet, and certainly excited that we were unanimously able to introduce this previously, and all very supportive. But any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes, in memory of my mother, Florence Russo. Thank you. Yes.
Counselor Schleger,
Yes.
Counselor Iacobellis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes, thank you. Next is Ordinance O-21-21, a fully funded capital ordinance providing for the acquisition of a vehicle to refurbish our sewer lining to remove infiltration, and I so move.
Second.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard on this without objection? Mr. Stafford?
There are none, Mayor.
Okay, without objection, I will also close that hearing. Okay, public hearing is closed. Any council comments, questions, concerns? I will go to the Deputy Mayor, and I would hope and think he's probably going to say what I'm thinking, but Mr. Deputy Mayor, please.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, Mr. Mayor, and say it anyway. Did you say it was fully funded? I just want to make sure I caught that.
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor, a fully funded capital ordinance, again, part of our massive debt reduction we've done here in town, but also fully funding a lot of these infrastructure projects. But yes, fully funded, sir.
Thank you for that clarification. Was that what you thought I was going to say?
It just was, as you might expect, yes.
I'll try to surprise next time.
Well, the next one is one ordinance away, so I bet that I'm not going to be that surprised. But any other questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo, Counselor Schleger,
Yes.
Counselor Iacobellis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Next is Ordinance O-21-22, fully funded capital ordinance providing for various water utility capital improvements in and by the Township of Montclair, appropriating the sum of $2.5 million from the Water Utility Capital Improvement Fund to cover the cost thereof, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded without objection. I'll open the public hearing on this. Mr. Stafford, is there anyone who wishes to be heard?
There is no one, Mayor.
Okay, also without objection, I will close the public hearing. Okay, thank you very much. Any council questions, comments, concerns on this ordinance? Okay, thank you. Just noting again, as we somewhat jokingly but very seriously know the impact that this has on many future generations. Again, a fully funded capital ordinance. We're very proud of that. Madam Clerk, please.
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlock,
Yes.
Council Price Abrams,
Yes.
Council Russo, Council Schlager,
Yes.
Council Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes.
I just got back on. I want to vote yes on that. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. I noted that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to some of our new business ordinances that we have here. We have our first, which is Ordinance O-21-23, which is an ordinance to amend Section 347 zoning of the Township of Montclair relating to parking, and I so move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any council comments, questions, concerns? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlock,
Yes.
Councilor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Councilor Russo,
Yes.
Councilor Schlager,
Yes.
Councilor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Okay, next is Ordinance
Mayor?
O-21.
Excuse me, I just wanted to put on a record that this will now be referred to the planning board. It's the zoning ordinance, and a public hearing shouldn't be scheduled until the planning board has had its opportunity to make the report. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Nope, perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate that notice as well. Next is, I think it's really probably a moot ordinance. Therefore, we've already done the previous ordinances. So without objection, I'm going to move past Ordinance O-21-24. It would be out of line in accordance with Robert's rules on this. So,
Yeah, Mayor, I got the point across that I wanted.
absolutely. Next, we have new business resolutions, which is first is Resolution R-21-165, which is to adopt revised council meeting schedule for the year 2021, and I so move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Abstentions?
I abstain.
One abstention. Noted. Thank you very much. Next is Resolution R-21-166, authorizing the township to submit an application to New Jersey Department of Community Affairs to participate in the Neighborhood Preservation Program. I so move.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we're moving forward on that one. Next is Resolution R-21-167, which is a resolution to enter into a contract with Stephen Tilley Architect to prepare residential design guidelines and outreach. I so move.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none. Mr. Karasik, I know it's not specific. Do we need
Roll call.
roll call? Okay, roll call on this one, Madam Clerk.
Contract.
Councilor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlock,
Yes.
Councilor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Councilor Russo,
Yes.
Councilor Schlager,
Yes.
Councilor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Next is Resolution R-21-168. Councilwoman Schlager, would you do the honors, please?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you. Whereas renowned philanthropist, volunteer, humanitarian, and supporter of the arts and education, Judy Weston was a longtime Montclair resident and active community member. And whereas Judy Weston was a tireless and creative supporter of public education, among her many contributions to the improvement of the township schools, she, together with her husband, Josh Weston, initiated and funded the Weston Awards, a teacher recognition program which honored approximately 300 Montclair public school teachers who went above and beyond what their work required and who were nominated by students, peers, and parents. Funded and oversaw the Weston Science Scholars Program, a partnership between Montclair State University and the Montclair Public Schools, which allowed some 800 Montclair High School seniors over 20 years to perform laboratory work at Montclair State University with college faculty and their mentors. Funded the Montclair High School 3D Innovation Laboratory, which is now part of the Montclair High School curriculum. Funded the Montclair Robotics Program. Funded Montclair State University Innovation Lab, has been advisor to 7 Montclair Public School superintendents, served as president and an engaged board member of the Adult School of Montclair, taught dance to elementary school children in Montclair. And whereas Judy Weston was involved as a philanthropist and volunteer in many organizations vital to the township community, including the Montclair Film Festival, Montclair Art Museum, which has a Weston gallery, the Mountainside Hospital's emergency room, Montclair ambulance unit, and the Montclair Food Pantry, among many others. Whereas Judy Weston regularly walked to and loved the Watchung Plaza area, and whereas in recognition of Judy Weston's dedication and contributions to the Montclair community, the council desires to honor, commemorate, and pay tribute to her exemplary character, her goodness, her kindness, and her decades-long residence in Montclair as in his grace and modesty, and a symbol of her continued presence in the Montclair community. And whereas the garden will be planted and maintained by the Friends of Judy Weston, established for this purpose. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Council, the Township of Montclair, that a portion of Watchung Park, generally as shown on the attached drawing, which we will disseminate shortly, shall be dedicated as the Judy Weston Memorial Garden. And I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and certainly, I know, speaking on behalf of all of us, well-read Councilwoman, and certainly we are also supportive, and as honestly, we know that the whole family has been so supportive of Montclair over the years. So very appreciative there, and also showing our appreciation in any way that we can in this one.
Yes.
So thank you. And any other council comments? Councilwoman Price Abrams?
Yeah, thank you. And I do want to just acknowledge, my daughter, I know, took part in the Weston Science Scholars Program. There's so many different things. We all might see some connection to all that litany of things that are rolled into this resolution. But I did have some opportunity to know Judy Weston and her husband Josh through our association at Temple Ne'er to Meet, and one of the things I'm probably most struck about was something that was shared at the time of her passing. Because we see these very big and magnanimous things, but really down to the details of making sure that the person who was, the mailman or something, she was able to thank him in certain ways, and she did it in the most gentle and unassuming way to be generous with people. And I just wanted to reflect on something I had heard at the time, and just acknowledge a person like that in our community, and wish her whole family, blessings from her memory.
Mr. Mayor, Robin, I really want to thank you for making this happen. Ms. Weston and Mr. Weston were so supportive of not just all students and programs. And as a former board member, they were the kind of supporters that you really, really, really wanted, because everything they did was about the students and education. And, my son participated in a science program at Montclair State. And so the work, it was just pure philanthropy at its best. And they never asked for anything in return. I know several superintendents relied on them, not for their financial commitment, but for their guidance in terms of, hey, STEM technology is coming. What do we need to do? So there goes to your 3D program. So they were very much into making sure that the schools were in the cutting edge, or at least involved in that. And so, to honor someone like that, I really applaud you. And I really want to just say that this is a great honor to bestow on someone and a family and a couple that, because they were in meetings together. You never saw one without the other. So thank you so much for doing that. It's a great honor for the council.
Good.
Councilman Yacobelis, I saw trying to.
Yeah, just real quick, I just want to say congratulations to Angelo and Ellie, and thank you for bringing me into the process and letting me be part of it and ideate with Councilwoman Schleicher, who did the work here. So thank you and congratulations.
Mayor, if I can add something?
Please.
The Weston family has asked, specifically Mr. Josh Weston, that when we memorialize the garden, that it happened on Saturday, October 9th. That will be the 1-year anniversary mark of Mrs. Weston's passing. And I think it's more than appropriate to dedicate the garden on that day. So I extend an invitation to all to come, and there'll be more details to follow. But as Councilman Yacobelis said, Angelo Sagalis, who is the Weston's mail carrier, and their neighbor, Ellie Meeks, were instrumental also in putting this together and forming the Friends of Judy Weston group. So I must acknowledge them. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Technically, I'm not sure if we did. So all in favor, please say
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'm sorry. I had my hand up. Real quick, I just want to echo much of what was said. Having 2 children in the school district myself who benefited from many of the programs that the Westons had put together, having been on the Board of School Estimate for the last 9 years, attending many of the award ceremonies. In addition to that, an incredible family that's done an incredible amount of work for Montclair, and it is fit that we honor them appropriately as we have here. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, next is Resolution R-21-169, which is a resolution declaring an emergency and directing that Ordinance O-21-17, providing for the regulation of the cannabis business of the town, take effect immediately. I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments?
Mayor, these are roll call votes and 5 votes to pass.
Got it. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings? Counselor Cummings?
No.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock?
No.
Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo?
Can I just ask, why do these require 5 votes to pass, Ira?
Because you're declaring an emergency and making the ordinances effective immediately. And that's what the statute says as required. I should say that if these ordinances don't go into effect by the 22nd of August, then we have lost the right to ban any cannabis, to prohibit cannabis licenses.
Right, this is that deadline the state imposed on us, right?
That's correct. That's
Okay, so
that's why we're doing this.
we got to get this done tonight, emergency. They put us in a position of emergency, so I vote yes.
Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next is Resolution R-21-170, declaring an emergency and directing that Ordinance O-21-18, amending the zoning ordinance 347, to provide for regulation of the location of cannabis business in the Township of Montclair to take effect immediately. And I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
No.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock?
No.
Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo?
Yes.
Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next is Resolution R-21-1701, resolution declaring an emergency and directing that Ordinance O-21-19, regulating municipal taxation on cannabis, take effect immediately. I so move.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
No.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock?
No.
Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo?
Yes.
Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. All right, next, we have Resolution R-21-172. Councilman Schlager, would you mind?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Whereas invoices against the Township of Montclair in favor of the following persons for the amounts set opposite their respective names have been received, duly audited, and found correct. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Township of Montclair, the County of Essex, that said invoices be, and they are hereby ordered paid, and that checks be drawn by the Finance Department to the order of such persons for the amounts respectively and hereinafter stated on the schedule attached hereto and made a part hereof. This bill list is dated August 10th, year of 2021, for the amount of $16,779,576.98. And I so move.
Second, any questions, concerns, or comments?
Mayor, just a quick comment. I just want to thank Mrs. Stafford again. You know, we don't always ask the questions here in the public realm. We get into the weeds, and I know the Finance Committee obviously does a lot of work on this, but you know, some of us also do email and make sure we, you know, thoroughly review this. And I just want the public to continue to know that, you know, we are carefully looking at how all of our dollars get spent. And thanks to Mrs. Stafford and to Maja, our CFO, for responding to my inquiries.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns, comments? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Thank you very much. Mr. Stafford, just some of the discussion items for future meeting, if you will.
Thank you, sir. Item number one, on August 6th of 2019, a contract for electrical services was awarded pursuant to an appropriate bidding process to Sal Electric Company of Jersey City. The contract was for a one-year term from August of 2019 through August of 2020, with two options for the township to renew, each for an additional one-year period. This vendor has performed in an efficient and effective manner, and as such, recommendation is made to, and this resolution would exercise the second one-year renewal option under the same terms and conditions for the period of August 7, 2021 through August 6, 2022 in an amount not to exceed $100,000.
Mr. Stafford, or Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Councilman
Is
Yacovelis.
there any reason why we couldn't move this evening?
None whatsoever, sir.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns, or comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings, Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Mr. Stafford?
Item number two is a grant insertion, and its resolution would serve as the township's request to the state of New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Director of the Division of Local Government Services to approve the insertion of the grant in the referenced amount as an item of revenue in the township's 2021 budget and also as an appropriation in the same amount. This grant, specifically the township was awarded a federal bulletproof vest partnership, does not have a local match.
So can I just ask a question? Is this for police, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're getting federal money, which we don't have to match. It'll pay for something that we would have had to expend money on, right? It's just
That's
a
correct.
savings for us, I guess. Okay.
That's
Is
correct.
this the first time we've gotten this, manager, or have we?
No, sir. We generally get it every year.
I thought so. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Councilman Yacobelis.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move this as well.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns, comments? Okay, seeing, we'll put it to the vote. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlegel,
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis, Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Next is resolution approving participation with the grant program administered by the New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety. Mr. Stafford?
Yes, sir. As you know, the township recently received from the state of New Jersey's Department of Law and Public Safety, Office of the Attorney General, a body-worn camera grant program grant in the amount of $236,408. The document package relative to the grant was recently received from the state, and the resolution you see attached as item 3 is required by the state for the township to accept the funds.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Yacobelis?
As well as the others, I'd like to move this, and also in particular too, I think this is important, just given getting our law enforcement up and running with body cameras sooner than later. So I so move.
Moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that. I want to just ask a question again now. Manager, this is enough money to cover the costs at this point. I mean, because the police chief at one time was concerned that we're not getting enough. We'll get it all eventually, but we have to put money out because we're required to have the cameras right now.
The grant from the state is not enough to cover the totality of the cost of the program, meaning the body cameras, its support, its hardware, its infrastructure, etc. But it is enough to cover the township's costs for the first few years of the installment plan to pay for it.
Okay. But we got to make sure we get all the money we need. My only problem with this, because I've always been in favor of body cams, is that we don't want to have to incur a lot of costs when it was a mandate, again, a state mandate. There's a law, there's state mandate, state pay, but we don't always get the money. And I'm hopeful that this is not going to be something that's a burden on our taxpayers. But I'm all in favor of getting this done, and I support the motion to get it done tonight.
Councilwoman Price Davis?
Thanks. Mr. Manager, I just wanted to understand, I see it's about 2/3 or whatever, 236 and change, and it's 390,420 over the same 5-year periods. Are we getting the whole amount from the state? And you're saying we would begin to pay toward that, and we're going to have then a balance left, that we'll have to find other sources for? Are we getting all that money up front, or are we getting it incrementally as well from the state?
Do you mean the $236,408? I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that the state has promised us in the grant program the $236,408. I suspect that we won't get the money up front because we're paying on a 5-year, I believe it's a 5-year payment plan.
Right.
So I suspect that the state will require the township to submit in proof of payment, and that the township will get the payment as it makes, get the grant funding as it makes the payments. At this moment, the township is only earmarked to receive $236,408, and your understanding and recitation is correct. It's quite a bit more money to get the program up and running, infrastructure-wise, technical support, et cetera, all in. The state has not made municipalities across the state aware of whether or not there will be future funding coming, but the township will avail itself of any future funding that's possibly available so that we can offset as much as possible, if not the entirety.
Thank you. I do know that there's, you obviously aggressively, you and your team, aggressively go after every opportunity. And of course, I'm glad to move it tonight as well. Thank you.
And certainly I concur. I will just use the opportunity to note, certainly as we're hearing the questions here, We do add the discussion items as usual, just to allow council colleagues the opportunity to ask these kind of questions, over the course of a little period of time. So as needed. And just a note, as we approve these items tonight, none of which will allow any of these things to happen any faster than they would if we're going to do them the next meeting, just as a note. So just noting that in case I don't want anyone to feel like rushed. I hear a few questions here and maybe people would want to go a little deeper. So just keeping that in mind, that we usually do have the discussion items to allow people that opportunity to really do that deep dive. If there is anything that, of course, speeds something up or changes it, noted, but just know that these contracts and things like that, don't make anything happen any faster. And certainly we should note it's may allow an opportunity for greater depth and dive for our colleagues as we normally do with things that are on discussion. So just noting that as well. But certainly moved and I believe seconded. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Thank you. Next, I will go to Mr. Manager. Any comments?
That's all I have this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Deputy Manager.
No reports, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Township Attorney.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
You bet. Madam Clerk.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we all had a good time at National Night Out. So just want to recognize that. That was a, decent time to be out, good day, good weather. I saw Councilman Hurlock and I saw Councilor Schlager while I was there. I had another appointment, but I think it's a really good event. I really enjoyed it. I want to give a shout out to the Montclair Ambulance Unit. And I say that because they're really trying to do some things to kind of connect more to the community. And I think it's really important that we understand they do so much. And as we go through this period with COVID and the pandemic and the variant, the ambulance folks, they still show up. They have to go into the house and they have to take the patients, and whether or not, someone is ill or not and is positive, they still do their jobs. And so their professionalism is top notch. And I just think it's really important that, there's some things that we really just continue to understand that those are those folks who truly are first responders. And as long as I can support them in any way, I will. And then finally, want to give a shout out to Maciel, Raj, Marciel, Amina Toller, and Robin Curry. For about 2 months ago, they approached me that they were concerned that the minority community in Montclair we're not getting vaccinated. And so we put our heads together and came up with an effort where they really reached out to all of the groups in town, community groups who interact with the minority population, and they're going to have a vaccine. I think it's August 29th. And I think it's really important that the word gets out, because I did speak with Keith Costello, and he concurred that, those populations numbers are not where we want them to be. So I think this is something that we really need to push out, especially as we get back to school. So I think that's something that's very important. It's something over the next couple of weeks that I definitely will be pushing out to get some folks there to get some vaccinations. Thanks a lot for the time.
Thank you, sir. Next, let's go to Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Thanks, Mayor. Honestly, I think, so much of what I've been trying to get my arms around, it's with different dimensions of our community. And as was noted, Councilman Cummings and I will be, digging further into the various boards and commissions, which is so much about the volunteer base that supports, in so many ways our town. And it's a very engaged population we have, and so many people who are committed over many years' time. And we seek to also bring in new voices in those roles as well. So as noted, we're going to be bringing forth some, some follow-up in that regard. But I really want to acknowledge the volunteers who really help drive so much in our town. And then similarly, and I know there was a lot of input from members of the community tonight in some of the neighborhoods affected, for example, with this Glen Ridge and the Midtown deck, but our business community, the third ward, as you know, is been noted many times, very diverse. It's also really a stronghold of the business community in our town. And I just want to keep plugging toward ways that we can work well, what the township needs and how we perform the services that we need to do for the town, and how we take care of the communities who ultimately take care of us. It's all very interrelated. And so, one of the highlight moments, and you and I were both there, was the Gravity Vault rock climbing gym over in the new Seymour Arts Plaza area. A really exciting new business that opened up, and it had opened up at 9 o'clock, and the people were sort of flooding the place. I mean, it was just a really dynamic, exciting new business. And there's, many things. We heard from some of the callers, there are another couple of new businesses. So we embrace them, we welcome them, and we will keep working to make sure we can find the balance of meeting the needs, for everybody. Can't always open the street. We can do better perhaps on the communication side, and we will work toward that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Schlager.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to, Councilwoman Price Abrams said exactly what I was going to say, is that given post-COVID and what we've all been through, I am so thrilled and amazed to see all these new businesses opening in town. There's the new cheese shop, the Van Hook cheese shop that just opened. There's Zacky's Falafel on Valley Road that just opened. The new ice cream gelato store on the corner of Bellevue and Valley is packed. It is delicious, if I must say. I was in there and sampled many flavors. I met the owners. They're so happy to be here. They're Montclair residents, as are the Van Hook cheese company that opened up. And pretty soon the Milburn Deli will open in Watchung Plaza, and many others that I'm sure I'm not that I'm forgetting. But it's really a testament to this town that people are coming, people are opening businesses, people are making a living with these stores, and like you said, Lori, that it's imperative that we support them and go in and say hi, which I often do. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm always wondering if I'm going to, where I am in the lineup as first floor or deputy mayor. So you caught me there. But thank you.
I'm trying to mix it up, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
You do well. You're doing a good job. Just a couple of things. Of course, National Night Out was a big success again. I saw Councilwoman Schlager, Mr. Cummings, you, Mr. Mayor, of course, Mr. Russo, and Ms. Price Abrams. It was great to be out there and with everyone live during these challenging times. And also what Mr. Cummings did not mention was that I think it was July 27th, it was a Tuesday, we were over at Mount Hebron and we looked at all the great things that are being done there in the greenhouse and in the garden. Really exciting things going on. The kids are doing an amazing job. A lot of community leaders that we all know and love are heading up that project. And I'm happy to say that neither Mr. Cummings nor myself, during the water balloon toss, dropped our balloons or broke them. So we kept the game going, right, David? It was a great event, and it just shows the resiliency of everyone, the students, faculty, community members. During the pandemic, we're getting out and about and getting a lot of things done. As was mentioned, there's been several ribbon cuttings that we've attended over the last year and a half as well. And we'll continue to do that, Montclair. You know, we're coming into a tough phase again with this Delta variant. Hope that everyone does take the opportunity to get vaccinated if you're so inclined and if you can. And we really need to come together as a community if we're going to finally put this damn thing behind us once and for all. Pardon my swearing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Appreciate that. Let's go to Councilman Yacobelis.
Thanks, Mayor. Same thing as Councilwoman Price Abrams and Schlager. just in terms of the businesses and the struggles. And it's tough to hear, what we have to hear, and hopefully we can figure out what went wrong there and make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. But also, like, what I'm seeing is the fruits of labor from you guys, really, the previous council. And I do want to acknowledge some key decisions that were made. Right, we are looking at a new parking deck going up, which is going to create a lot of relief for people downtown and for businesses downtown and opportunities. We are looking at all of the intersections in along Bloomfield Avenue being made safer. These are really key decisions. We're looking at a new Seymour Street development and a beautiful plaza there. These are things that were set in motion years ago that we're seeing the benefit of now. And yes, there's temporary disruption and it's unfortunate, but the bigger picture, I think, is becoming clearer. And I think there's a lot to be proud of. So I just want to continue to urge, patience and some understanding, and definitely, we will do our best, I think, to, not get in the way. We are going to be having the Department of Motor Vehicles come out with a mobile unit, and I know I'm working with Deputy Mayor Herlock and Councilor Cummings and a few of you on our senior services team, but we'll be announcing that, I believe, next week or the week after, that we'll be having the DMV or Motor Vehicles Division come out with a mobile unit to serve Montclair residents at 1 or 2 locations around town during the month of September, which will be, I think, really convenient for folks and get rid of that annoying trip that you have to take to motor vehicles. Mayor, I want to recognize you for your leadership throughout this cannabis debate. It's been months of work. We obviously in our committee, we've done a lot of research. I know we've participated in forums and seminars outside of that committee work. I've certainly done a lot of reading and watching videos and all of the sort of stuff to bring myself up to speed on the things I didn't understand. I know way more about all of this than I ever thought I would. And it is a delicate balance of, just weighing all of the different perspectives and interests and passions on this. And so I think just really good job, and kudos to you for shepherding this all through. I really do feel strongly about what I said, both in my newsletter and what I said earlier. I think we are the progressive capital of New Jersey, and I think it is incumbent on us to lead on progressive policy. And I'm proud of what we were able to get done tonight, and I think it's a really big deal. I will just echo what some others have said, just in terms of continued recognition and thanks of our first responders. They haven't stopped for 1.5 years, and every time we think we get a break, it turns out we don't have one. So just continued thanks for the tireless work and continuing to put yourselves at risk. To anybody who hasn't gotten a vaccine, please, and to those of you who know people who haven't gotten the vaccine, have that difficult conversation. We're afraid of those conversations sometimes because it'll turn to a fight. Believe me, I know. I have family members that I'm fighting with over it, but challenge yourself to have the difficult conversation and make sure people are getting vaccinated. It is a matter of life and death. This disease is mutating. It is getting more deadly. It is spreading more rapidly. And last but not least, I just want to congratulate Jonathan Capel as the new president of Montclair State University. Mutual friend introduced us in Arizona a while ago, and just really excited about his tenure and everything that he represents, and all of the collaboration opportunities that I think we have between the township and MSU in the years ahead. So congratulations and welcome to Jonathan. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Russo.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll tag on to what Councilman Yacobelis just said. I know that the new president of Montclair State has already met Mayor Spiller, has met with Councilman Herlock, as he should, First Ward Councilman. But because I teach there, was invited to the big town hall meeting he had a week or so ago with the faculty and staff at the university. So 200 of us spent 1.5 hours listening to him talk about his great experiences leading a college within the Arizona university system. And, he's really, really a great young leader. And I really appreciate his acknowledging me to speak first. And I talked about our teachers union, our faculty AFT, but more importantly, as council member here and having served in the First Ward, I welcomed him to Montclair. And I think he's really eager to meet all of you, all of our council members and all of our leaders here. And I think the public's going to get to know Jonathan Capel as a great new president of Montclair State. And of course, we wish good luck and thanks for her 23 years of service to former President Susan Cole. The last thing I wanted to mention just is that, we've got to stop these incidents where people are attacking Asian Americans. Attacking any groups is bad, but Asian Americans have written to us again, the AAPI Montclair Advocacy Committee members. I want to thank Serena Lee, who's our high school student member of the Civil Rights Commission, but also an active member of AAPI, and Meredith Nara now on the Civil Rights Commission by our appointment. So there's representation there, but they're really appealing to us to implement some real strong changes and to do some things that are in a recommendation list they sent. So I'm asking my colleagues and the manager and our town attorney to look into this, because AAPI really just sprung up the last year, you know, and it's really important that we take a look at what they're recommending. So again, 9/11 is coming up. It's a month from now, almost exactly a month from now. We're not going to be able to do things as much on the time that we used to do it. We used to informally meet about 8:30 till 9:30 at Watchung Plaza. But this year we may do it later that day, or we may do it the day before, but we're not going to interfere with people going to New York and families going up to the county early in the morning. But there is a 20th anniversary of the 9/11 tragedy, which hit Montclair the hardest of any community in Essex County. That's important to know. And we had wonderful work by Denise Mayer and Rob Bianco to get that beautiful little monument together, the plaque and the stone. And Diana Stewart and Lisa Collins, who still live here in Montclair, may be participating with us that week. So I'm asking everyone to look ahead to that. And I know our town staff will get everything ready for Watchung Plaza for 9/11, 20th anniversary of a tragedy, which, you know, we really cannot forget these things. Unless we look at the past and history and learn from it, we really cannot forget the past and Montclair's history, especially as we talk about all these issues. Thank you, Mayor. I didn't have much of a voice tonight, but my cold is getting better. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate all of that. And I will just close this out by saying, first and foremost, again, to all the residents out there, as was said, look, we are still in this pandemic. We know the struggle and the efforts that so many have gone through, you know, again, you know, missing time with family and friends and so many things that we're, you know, accustomed to and enjoy doing. We sacrifice to make sure that we can move forward safely during this difficult time. So now is the time. That next phase is getting vaccinated. If anyone is medically able, please get vaccinated. It is so important, as you're hearing from myself and all of my colleagues here tonight. That is the next phase to help get us through this pandemic. We are not out of it yet. Delta variant is showing that very clearly. And we've got to do all we can to fight this. That's an important piece. We want to get back to, quote unquote, that new normal. This is the thing that we have to do here. So please, all the steps, any conversation that can be had to make sure we move forward in getting vaccinated, let's do so. Right? That's I think part of our obligation here at this point. Certainly, as was noted, I do also want to say it was a great conversation welcoming the new MSU president. Dr. Capel, you know, seems like a very nice gentleman, has great priorities, looking forward to where he takes the university, and certainly looking forward to the partnerships that we can expect moving forward with the township. You know, exciting pieces there, I think, and an opportunity for real growth in terms of that partnership, and you know, look forward to the continued conversation and the work that we all can get done together. So excited there as well. As was noted, you know, certainly a difficult time as we talk about the pandemic for our businesses and a lot of the things that they've faced. Certainly happy and kudos. I will certainly say, you know, Councilman Yacobelis, a big thank you to you, acknowledging some of the things that have been in place with Seymour Street and, you know, quite frankly, you know, getting some parking decks, you know, again, getting developers to pay for that. I would, you know, note our surplus. We built up some of the finances, but that kudos goes right back out and extended to you and all of us on the council here, because also doing things like putting forward grants for small businesses during the heart of this pandemic when, you know, we didn't see any of those federal dollars yet. We stepped in right away and put some money towards it, town dollars towards grants to help businesses. You know, of course, you know, allocating federal dollars when we receive them here to help our small businesses, try to relax rules and regulations, forego, you know, costs of permitting and things of that nature to kind of help things along. And certainly while we're seeing, businesses fighting to get through this, anyone who's walked around Montclair here sees, how robust the township is starting to come back, which is a great thing as long as we keep doing our part with vaccinations for sure. But we're seeing that, start to happen here. And I think it's really a testament to Montclair, and certainly a testament to the work that this council and certainly previous have done as well. We are all excited when we welcome new businesses. We are welcoming many new businesses. I think last account, our vacancy rate was, quite low, which is a good thing. We want to see that. We want to see those storefronts filled, whatever that may be at. Councilwoman, Price Abrams, as you note, and to all my colleagues who were able to join us at the ribbon cutting for the Gravity Vault and other places. I mean, it was wonderful to be in Seymour Street to see what that looks like now, going from a narrow little street that was there to now this wide pedestrian space with some businesses coming in, some really exciting opportunities. Gravity Vault being one of them, but a lot of different things there. We saw the film festival on site as well. Just really talking about the arts that's going to be in that area with the Wellmont and with the outdoor performances, with the opportunities that are going to exist right in that area. It's exciting for sure. And I think again, part of the work that we all continue to do to make sure we're well positioned as we move forward. So really excited about that. I know that many are out and about and have been enjoying the Jazz Festival. Please, continue to do so. It's a great opportunity to be outside, be enjoying great performances. Be sure to check their website, which goes through their whole schedule, culminating with a large outdoor activity on Bloomfield Avenue. And, we're all looking forward to that. We're happy to help partner with them on that. And again, all this council for supporting that work as well and making sure we are able to get that done. So exciting on the horizon there. And, everybody should get out and enjoy it for sure. Also want to thank everybody who jumped on to my last town hall meeting, having PSC and G on to really specifically answer resident questions and to lay out where we are with green energy, with some of the infrastructure work that lays ahead, with any of the questions that the residents had specific to Montclair. Really appreciate jumping on and everybody partaking in that process and engaging in the exchange of ideas and thoughts, et cetera. So appreciate that, and sure, of course, keep tuning in for the next town hall as well that I'll be moving forward with. And lastly, I'll just close out. Councilman Yacovellis noted it. Whether it be cannabis, and thank you so much for your words again, Councilman. But I really appreciate everybody on here's debate and deliberation. I think that is why we get a great product as we move forward in terms of things that we pass. I am very proud of smart progressive leadership, financial guidance that we also include with that. I think Governor Murphy has shown it at the state level. I think we show it here at the local level, that we can be progressive on issues, but also financially be very prudent in making sure that we, do things the right way. And we're getting that infrastructure work done. We're accomplishing things that haven't in quite some time. But we're also still addressing the issues that affect people, whether that be through incarceration or other pieces, and addressing it and changing it and doing what we can. So really appreciate, again, all of my colleagues for the work there. Certainly the subcommittees work on that, Councilwoman Schlager, Councilman Yacovellis, and certainly then the full council for the work around that. That was a tough one in a short period of time as mandated by the state. So, we will continue to work on these issues and others as we move forward. We won't all agree on every single piece, but I do appreciate we do it in a way that I think is a model for a lot of levels of government. So I thank all of my colleagues for that piece as well. And with that, thank all the residents for tuning in today for comments and questions, and looking forward to seeing everyone again soon. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. See everyone soon.
Good night. Good night.
Bye all.